How's going, guys? Welcome to the channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto abandoned his village and built harem of 7 girls in HOTD, Part 3. Huge shout out to Black Fox 1991 for this story. If you wants to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. Mist could be seen everywhere. It was the airport, and sound of planes could be heard. I am done checking on the passengers. None of them seems to showing any of the symptoms. A man in white pilot dress entered the control room while stating, "Nor do any of them have a fever or any injuries, nor are they already dead." He finished as he looked at the other man. The other two has a serious expression on his face but asked, "Your family lives in Tokyo?" Other man just adjusted in his seat putting on the earpiece said. No one answered the phone. On the outside, you could see the undead moving in the mist on the runway. Just then a voice sounded in speaker Tokunosu Tower JX089, ready to take off. There was a reply JX089, Tokunosu Tower. Hold on runway 3-4, we have a problem. One more plane took off. He looks repulsive. A female voice said as gun was aimed at a glasses-wearing undead. He is an actor. A male voice replied. He was on a location here for filming, distance, 4500, angle, -6, wind, favorable, corrections, none, permission to fire, granted. Just then, gun was shot hitting directly in head of actor undead. More were shot just like that, and in no time all were shot down. Good work, male voice said. He pressed his earpiece. All targets on runway have been eliminated, over and out. On the other side, the woman stood up and starts massaging her friest from under the armor. This woman was Rika Minami. Rika was a tan female with purple hair. She wears a black combat suit with a bulletproof vest. Also, she was wearing a white choke collar along with shooting glasses. Underneath her combat uniform, she wears a white sports bra under which were D-cup perky friests. "What are you doing?" asked Taijima with a little sweat drop. Taijima wears the same 1st Squadron police uniform as Rika, which consists of a full-body suit, knee and elbow pads, and a bulletproof vest. He also wears a white cap. He has a scar just above his right eye. "These things are numb. I have been laying down there since this morning," she replied. "If you don't mind, I could massage them," he said with a perverted grin. She just undid her armor. "I would if you were a better shot than me," she retorted. He whines a little. "But you are one of the top 5 officers in our whole country. That's not fair. Then you should give up. Anyway." He then turned serious. "There is a new name coming up in the list, which came just last year. Who is that?" she asked, surprised. "Not much is known about him. Only a few officers knew who he is. Commander gave him direct orders." She whistled. He continued. "It was said he never failed a mission. He carry a sword with red blade and a S&W Model 500 Magnum. Has stealth better than our assassins." "Who is this guy?" she asked, aggravated, having enough of his bragging. "I don't know," he replied. She sweat dropped, but he answered. "But wherever he goes blood is spilled, so in departments he is famous by the name of the Red Death." He finished looking at the sky. Naruto, who was still riding on bike, sneezed. "Bless you," Ray quipped. Naruto just nodded, rubbing his nose. "Someone must be talking about me." She again whistled. "Well, I want to meet this guy one time. It is also said that he is rather young." She just nodded. In this world, everything is possible. "By the way, how did those things even get here? We are at Seaside Airport that can only be reached by ship. Haven't they been restricting entry?" "Yeah," she answered. "Only high-ranking officials and airport technicians as well as their families are allowed in. Some people have arrived at the rack to clear the mess. One of them must be infected. The situation is under control right now, but who knows how long that will last." Another airplane was taking off. "What do you think would have happened to this place if we hadn't been assigned here due to terrorist threats? Well, I don't have infinite ammo." "You gonna run away?" she taunted a little. "Not planning on it. Well, not yet." The airplane took off. "I am gonna go to the city, eventually." "What? You have a guy there?" he questioned off-handed. "Maybe. but a friend for sure. She answered, slightly smiling. When one's only friend fill your ears about a guy, you would too want to meet him. We can see Shizuka leaning on the steering wheel, tapping it with her finger while her mind was somewhere else, where Rika will be. Are Naruto-kun and Miyamoto-san fine? But a snake-like hissing voice could be heard. That's right, thus instead of acting out of self-interest. Shido was standing in the center of bus, arms spread wide, giving another one of his speeches which he was giving since Naruto and Rei separated from them. We need to find a safe and move as a group. He then brought his right arm in front of his face, his clothes making sounds. To make him look more charismatic, he said. For example, we shouldn't all go check on our families until we become an organized group. One the side, Siko was sitting, eyes closed, arms folded, her wooden sword in her hand in case something happened. Hirano was snoring lightly as drool fall from his mouth. Miku was too, dozing off, her head dipping at intervals, while Saya has a thinking pose on with eyes closed. She slowly opened her eyes. But Shido continued. In fact, I think the number one thing for us right now is laying down a foundation for our group, understand? Hirano. Saya elbowed Hirano to wake him up. He slowly came to his senses, mumbling. Takagi-san. While blinking. Good morning, sunshine. Why did you fall asleep? She asked, more or less used to his antics now. And you are drooling, she said, waving him of looking grossed out. He wiped his mouth and looked out of window. Because of all this. Outside was still traffic jam. People were standing on footpath. Police officers controlling public. I think it would have been better if we had gone toward the suburbs, he muttered. But at this, Saya got into her lecture mode. There are other ways to escape besides cars, she said, pointing at an airplane. Hirano mind clicked. The seaside airport, he said in realization. As you can see, it's too dangerous to be in the city. There's probably a group of people who are trying to flee to an island, or to some isolated area where there are armed forces, said Saya. Like Okinawa? Hirano gave a suggestion. The American military forces that are stationed there aren't there to fight. Suddenly a thought popped up. Oh. But there is the SDF. Saya has again taken the thinking pose. Hokkaido and Kyushu should be okay if they handled the situation appropriately. I would say the airplanes are headed for one of those locations. So we should go somewhere like that too? He asked with a sweet face. But Saya gave him a pointed stare. It's way too late for that. Areas with large amounts of American soldiers or where the SDF is stationed are probably keeping the situation under control. However, it's likely that they started being strict about who they take in. Actually, before we know it, whole world will be like that. What would you do if letting in others meant risking letting those things in too? She asked. I'd shove myself in, he replied in childlike innocence. And what if the world started thinking the same as you? What if they tried to keep their community as small as possible for maximum survival? She questioned rhetorically. Hirano gulped. Wow, Takagi-san, you really are a genius. What are you acting so surprised about? She said with a scoff. Just look at him. She pointed her thumb at Shido. He is an example of what I am talking about. In the back seat, Shido was flirting with a girl, smiling wickedly. She continued. I doubt that he himself realizes it. I mean, you know what happened overnight. She stares at him. He put a hand on his nail gun. Should I stop him? He asked seriously. But she didn't react. Their all thoughts were similar at this. What we should be doing is thinking about how we are going to survive. I need someone I can trust, Mao, if only Naruto is here. Hirano stared out of window. Takagi-san, you like Naruto, don't you? He asked knowingly. She blushed, then exclaimed. Don't say something that stupid! She then deflated, but when she turned around, Siko, Shizuka and Miku were staring at her with glint in their eyes. Shizuka hummed to that effect. W what? Saya stuttered. Siko stared a little more, then out of the window. I am concerned about their safety. It would be preferable if we were able to meet them without incident. But Hirano smiled confidently. Don't worry, senpai, this is Naruto we are talking about, they will be fine. At this all smiled, they know he will be fine, but heart is such a vulnerable thing. Suddenly a car blasted. People were killing each other. They didn't care if they were alive or not. They were just killing everyone. On one side of the road, Naruto and Rei were waiting. "This is crazy, it's like a war," Rei said. Naruto just stared ahead. "It's worse than war, there are no comrades, it's dangerous here, we are going through." He starts the bike and throttle. It was on rear wheel for a few seconds. When the others heard the bike, they started to attack them. Naruto was able to avoid most of them. But when they were passing through a car, a man shot a bullet. Bike was not fast enough, Naruto knew that, and with the current speed, it will hit Rei. Thinking fast, Rei was staring at the bullet wide-eyed in fear. She could see that it was coming towards her, like in slow motion. Well, for Naruto it was, but for Rei it was adrenaline rush. She saw it coming near her, life flashing before her eyes with every moment it come close. Thoughts running through her head. But before it could hit, something pulled her out of its way. Naruto at the last second pulled her around from his left side to the front, that her legs were around his waist and hands around his chest. She was practically hugging him on the bike. Rei was now staring at a scarred chest wide-eyed, which she recognized. She looked up to see that Naruto was staring at the man who has shot the gun. Just then, he suddenly picks out a rectangle card just like playing cards from his kimono's sleeve, but it has weird designs on it. He throws it at the man, striking into the center of his forehead. Man's mouth opened in silent scream, but only spit fly out. This happened within 2 seconds. They were gone. After about 3 seconds, Rei heard an explosion. After finding a clear area, Naruto stopped the bike, but didn't make a move to remove Rei. She slowly looked at his face. He was staring at her with concerned eyes. She smiled happily. He again has saved her life. "Are you okay?" he asked lowly. "Yeah." She removed herself from the front to again take a seat at the back. After settling, they again moved on. "What was that card?" she asked curiously. "Explosive paper," he stated simply. She was surprised at that but not shocked. She has already accepted that everything is possible with Naruto. "But why kill them?" she asked with a frown. Naruto sighed. "At this rate they will attack more living people than those undead. 10 undead are not enough for a life, so they are better being dead. They have gone mad, just like us, just like us," Rei muttered. But Naruto didn't reply, opted staring ahead. But he deflated. As he reaches the turn, he turned to the left. "Huh! Isn't the bridge straight ahead?" Naruto stopped the bike. "Look at the other side of bridge," he said without turning around. She gasped, as there was about 2 miles long traffic jam, all honking their horns. "Who knows when we will be able to cross over?" Rei looked at him as he said, "Let's go toward Anbetsu Bridge and try to meet with the others." They were gone the next moment. When the bridge police were trying to control people, but it was becoming hard as time passed. Some teenagers tried to force way through but were shot by water gun into the river. "As members of Fujimi Academy, it's during times like these that we must keep our pride," he said, waving his hands to emphasize his point, and finished with a dramatic bow and an eerie toothy smirk. "We must keep our pride. Meaning those two who got off the bus, Naruto and Miyamoto, don't belong with us anyway. Let's stick together in order to survive." All other girls of Naruto's group who were sitting in front were staring at him in disdain. "He seriously is insane," Saya said, folding her arms under her fists, picking them up a little. While Shido continued his speech. "Indeed, he is comparable to a recruitment officer for a religious cult," Siko said. "Compared to? No. That's exactly what he is doing. Just look at the people who are listening to his crap." All of Shido's group have stars in their eyes, looking at him like he was their god. "They are cult. This marks the birth of Shido religion," she finished. Siko looked outside. "Look at the situation outside. In order to escape, I believe we will need to leave this bus." Siko gripped her chin in thought. "Somehow, we must make it to the East Police Station by means of crossing Anbetsu Bridge. I must keep my promise to Naruto-kun there." "Wow! You really have Naruto on your mind," said Saya, adjusting her glass, trying not to seem stiff. "You aren't worried about your family?" "I do worry, but the only kin I have is my father. He is overseas at a dojo, so as of right now all I have to hold on to right now is my life and my promise with Naruto-kun, and father has always told me that a promise must be kept even it should cost you your life. Siko said with a gentle smile. Saya just not familiar with samurai codes. While Hirano asked something that others overlooked. What promise do you made with Naruto-senpai? At that, all eyes were on Siko. Smiled sadly with a little blush. She closed her eyes. That I won't leave him. Hirano, Miku and Saya think of it like something wrong, but Shizuka understood what she meant. I am glad Naruto-kun has such good friends. Shizuka smiled. Saya asked another question. Siko, what was that commotion in the finals of the tournament you and Naruto won? I saw in news that the finalist was in critical condition. At this question, Siko blushed cherry red. But all others stared at her, waiting for an answer. She lowered her head in embarrassment. Naruto-kun beat him. Shizuka looked skeptical at that. This badly? He insulted me. You mean to tell me that he broke his arm, 6 ribs, and a ruptured lung, just because he insulted you? Saya asked, not believing. Siko just nodded. Now Hirano knew why other students stopped bullying him. They don't want to face Demon's wrath. How cryptic. Where do you all live? Shizuka asked, turning to them. Saya glanced at the blonde. My house is in the area on the other side of Onbetsu Bridge, she said. My parents aren't in the neighborhood, but I will follow Takagi to the end of the world, he said with a gesture. But Saya has only one thought. Gross. Siko asked. Where is your family, Hirano-kun? Smiling. He too smiled. My dad is in Amsterdam buying supplies since he's a jewel merchant. My mom is a fashion designer and she is in Paris. What time period is this character sheet from? Saya asked, aggravated. Shizuka laughed lightly. If we were in a manga, your dad would be the captain of a foreign cruise ship, she asked. He rubbed the back of his head. Actually, that was my grandpa. My grandma was a violinist, he finished as he laughed nervously. Saya was gripping her head while sweat dropping and muttering, it's all fits. And you, Miku-chan? Shizuka asked with smile, looking at the last and the latest addition to the group. Miku too smiled to the nurse, knowing she was just curious. My home is at the same place as Miyamoto's. All nodded at that. Shizuka pulled up the handbrake as she stood up. So, what are you guys gonna do? I wanna come too, you do? Asked Saya, a little surprised. My parents are both dead and my relatives live far away, and Naruto-kun is my only friend here, so I want to stay with him. She finishes with a smile and a little blush. The girls caught it easily. Siko and Shizuka have twitch in their eyebrows while thinking her too. Miku was not. She already knew if Naruto wants someone, Shizuka has the greatest chances. After all, if you pay attention to the gossips, you could get much news. But it's not like she would give up on him just because of that. But the Shizuka frowned. It's rude of me to say this, but I don't really like. The others snickered a little. Then Siko becomes serious. Then what shall we do? This area is foreign to me, she said. First we should check on Onbetsu Bridge, replied Saya. Just then, Shido turned to them. What's wrong, you guys? We should work together, dash. But he was interrupted by Saya. Thanks but no thanks, Shido-sensei, we got out our own agenda. We have our own leader and we are not on a field trip, so we have no reason to stay with you. She finished in her genius tone and a cocky smile present on her face. Oh, Shido hissed, but we know he won't relent that easily. He joined his fingers in front of him. If you've decided to leave, then feel free to do so, Takagi-san. Japan is the land of free will after all, hee. But, he licked his lips. It would be bad if you went, Ms. Marikawa. He finished with a greedy look as lust filled his eyes. Shizuka stumbled at being addressed like that, which caused her fists to bounce. In this situation, losing our medic would be very problematic, so how about it? Won't you stay? These students are relying on you, he said as he starts walking forward. But before he could reach them, a nail grazed his cheek, drawing some blood. The boy who was sitting behind gasped as nail almost hit him. Hi, Hirano-kun? Shido stammered. It's not that I missed on purpose, Hirano said in a low voice. Since when have you been so vile? Shido was again cut off, but this time by Hirano. How many corpses do you think I wrecked back at school? He said a little loudly. You know, you always treated me like crap. He yelled with a dangerous look in his eyes. You always stand there enjoying my misery. You think I did not notice, I always knew it. But you never give a damn, even when as a teacher it was your duty. Now all were staring at him. I put up with it. I put up with it for so long. I wanted to be seen normal, so I put up with it, but that day, I had decided to kill him. He posed his gun at Tsunoda, who flinched, taking a step backward. But Naruto, he helped me. Without even knowing he helped me, he became my friend while you sneer at him. Ha ha ha, he was always above you, he was out of your clutches, you can't even touch his hair, and he removed me too from your clutches. He beat you in your own game again and again, and all you could do was snarl and hiss. Shido sneered profusely, as it was true. He couldn't beat Naruto ever. He would try to lure him with his speeches, but he will make a funny, snarky plus logical comment, converting him into a laughingstock. He was genius in his subject, so he can expel him, as the principal said so. He didn't have any guardians to complain to. He was a packed packet that can't be opened. He always said he doesn't like you, that's why he did it, but I know, he did it for me, a gun otaku. He does all that to reduce my misery. He was the one who pulled me out of my despair. He taught me being different is nothing, I just have to work hard to make my place. If I have to, I will follow him to death. At his proclamation, all stare at him wide-eyed. Even his own group. That was very bold proclamation, and they had feeling he would go with it. Now he needs me. Naruto has asked me to cover our friends' backs. He trusted me enough. Do you really think I will let you slither in while he was gone? This is where I made my place. I will protect my friends. You come near them, you will die. You said world has changed. Then I can kill living being too, he said with an insane smile. After his proclamation, Shido was silent. He did not want to test his luck. And by the boy's face he was pretty serious. But Shido took step back in fear as Hirano pointed his gun at him. Hi Hirano-kun, that's. Busujima-senpai, you should get off first, I'll guard the rear, Hirano said as he looked back from the corner of his eyes. Siko smiled lightly. She stand up with a grace as her skirt flowed in air, you could see her black lacy panties. What a fine man you are, Hirano-kun, she said. With that, Naruto's group exited the bus with Hirano covering the back. Inside the bus, Shido was fuming. A girl asked fearfully, Sensei? However, he didn't say anything, he couldn't. He was again beaten, and this time, by a loser. They were little far from the Anbetsu Bridge. It's the same here, now what? Check on different bridge? Rei asked. Naruto slightly turned to stare at her, a blush spread on her face. Naruto always make her feel self-conscious. That's pointless. I can tell you all the bridges are closed. There would be no meaning in closing one not the other, if they want to purge the city clean. She looked down at that, knowing it was true. He brought out his phone, seeing the time was already 7. We have to cross bridge to get to the police station. But how? She demanded. He was still all nonchalant. I have few ideas, but... As he was thinking, they heard some kind of gunshots. Rei gasped. Gunshots! Naruto just smirked. No, they are here. On the bridge, the group was surrounded by undead, while Siko and Hirano killed them. And then maybe it would have been better if we had stayed on the bus with... Shizuka said fearfully as she stepped back from the undead. What's that? I thought you said you hated him? Saya asked, smiling. Shizuka put a finger on her cheek, looking cute. Well, I really don't like him, but I don't like walking either. At this, Mika's sweat dropped a little. What kind of answer is that? Busujima-senpai, I am low on nails. At the moment, one of them was behind her, ready to bite her. But just like Naruto's style, she swirled around him, appearing behind it, then striking with a two-handed stroke. She turned to him. Would you like to borrow this? Gesturing to her sword. I am no good at close-range combat. He wailed while crying anime tears. She closed her eyes. Right now. She flicked her blade to side. Then only thing I can do is fight. She smiled sadistically again, charging at them. Naruto was racing bike at high speed, a lazy grin spreading on his face. Wait a sec, Ray said, slowly understanding what he was about to do. Naruto? But he didn't say anything. He just grinned. As there was a ramp truck in front of them. As Saya was back up, Shizuka came running to her while. No! Both fell on the road, Shizuka's boobs pressing on her face. At this, Hirano looked back. Takagi-san. Damn! Siko was too worried while Miku was trying to help them. Ray was staring ahead wide-eyed. While Naruto was grinning, then he muttered something that disturbed her greatly. I love my life right now. He then races the bike over the truck and into the air. Just as their bike came over the bridge, still humming, Siko and Hirano saw them. Naruto/Kun. Then they saw his face. His face has a lazy wide grin, like he was enjoying himself. Well, they could see why he was enjoying. As the bike landed on the other side, he let it slip so he was able to knock a number of them away. Just he was about to run off in another direction after the slip was finished. Ray jumped from the bike, plunging the staff spear into one's head. She quickly pulled it back, then running towards other two, she stand on her right foot and spun while spear held out, slicing the two undead faces. But Naruto's work was still not complete. He raced on towards Hirano. Just as he reached, he used his left hand, bringing out his magnum. Hirano. Boy looked towards Naruto's direction. Then Naruto threw his weapon towards Hirano, it goes spinning. Hirano out of reflex caught it, like he was doing it all his life. His hand was raised, suddenly he got maniacal grin as his glasses glint in light. Holding the gun with both hands, he shot 2 bullets. But one was going towards Naruto's way, but he just bent back and let it pass over him. He knows Hirano has trained in armory, from their time together he knew about it. The bullets hit 2 undead head, blasting them in shower of goo. He grinned wickedly. Double tap. He raced past Saya, Shizuka and Miku, making their skirts to fly, showing Saya's strip panty as well Miku's polka dot one. As he moved towards Siko's position, she smirked. Naruto's grin was still in place. He extended his left arm, Siko grabbed his hand, he turned around 180. As he completely turned, she was lifted into air. She then came down spinning, taking the 3 of them out at once. Naruto hit 3 with his rear tire, throwing them off the bridge. As he stood there, his grin faded, replaced by his bored look. Well, that was good action. All sweat dropped. They were fighting for their lives, not some action horror movie. Wow, Shizuka said, awed at the display. It seemed we have cleared this area, was Siko's respond. Wow, that was tough, Shizuka said with a smile. Saya looked sideways at her. It's not like you did anything, Saya mumbled. Miki giggled at their antics. Just then Ray ran up to Shizuka. Sensei, she shouted. She jumped on her for a hug, her face buried in her fists. Oh my! Miyamoto-san! What a coincidence! Don't you mean coincidence? Ray mumbled softly, sweat dropping. Naruto stood behind, holding the bike. Shizuka. Naruto-kun too? Naruto smiled lazily. I take it Tankosu Bridge is also closed off, Siko said, coming close. Yeah, said Naruto as he slowly turned to her. In that case, I am glad to see that you are okay, Naruto-kun, she said. But Naruto made a mock hurt face. What? No welcome hug or... He leaned forward. A kiss, he said with a pout. But Siko's confidence dropped when he said the last word. Many thoughts running through her mind. She stammered with a cherry red blush on her pale face. Naruto chuckled, waving his arm in front of him. I was joking. She babbles a little more, but in the end accepted her defeat, downed her head in embarrassment. But one thought was running through her mind: I could have at least gave him a hug. Just then, Saya came behind Naruto with an angry-looking pout. What about me? She asked, grabbing his arm. Naruto took his arm from her hands, then started patting on her head, while to rub her hair. I am glad you are fine too, Saya, he said with his usual lazy smile. Whatever retort she wanted to say died in her throat. Naruto has subdued her within seconds. She just bowed her head with a blush. Naruto then turned to last girl of the group. Miku, girl smiled. I am fine, Naruto-kun. He nodded, turning to the last of the group. Hirano, he said. There was an energetic response. Naruto, he said, pointing the shining gun in different directions. What's this? How do you get it? Bullets, he said, checking for bullets. This is the Smith & Wesson Model 500, a 5-shot, double-action revolver produced by Smith & Wesson, firing the 500 SNW Magnum cartridges. Said to be strongest handgun until made right dash, it's mine, he said, cutting off the boy's rant. They all look at him questioningly. Naruto pointed at Ray. Ray will tell you later. They all then looked at Ray, who nodded. So they shrugged. But Naruto then again turned to Hirano, and spoke in a completely chilling voice with a sickly sweet smile on his face, eyes closed, aura of death radiating from him. Hirano-kun. That voice sends chills down her spine. Said boy slowly turned to Naruto. Hi. He stuttered out. I am allowing you to use her, but if something happened to that baby, you want to know what I will do. Hirano furiously shook his head. No, sir, I will protect her with my life, he said with a salute. Everyone except Naruto's sweat dropped, who smiled and nodded. He then goes into his kimono's arm and brought out a bullet packet, tossing it to Hirano and smiled. Here you go. Now all were under the bridge. Naruto-kun, where do you get those clothes? Asked Shizuka. At this, other girls too looked at him. Now he looks hotter, they thought. He smiled. They are mine. I used to wear before coming here. But aren't they old-fashioned? Asked Saya. Naruto chuckled hollowly, but only Siko and Shizuka noticed. Yeah, but I like them. Now Siko spoke as previous topic ended. We exited the bus due to blocking of the road and have been unable to cross the river. Saya was climbing up the stairs after washing her face in the river. The water level went up. I guess it wouldn't be possible to go upstream, she said. So, what should we do? Asked Miku. Naruto was about to say, but noticed from the corner of his eye that Shizuka was about to say something, but has deflated when she saw Naruto was about to talk. But at this Naruto smiled lightly and nodded. As Shizuka was watching him, she understands that he was signaling her to talk. He has to maintain teamwork, what better way than to talk each other? Shizuka smiled gratefully. Naruto always seemed to know when she was in pinch. I think we should rest now, she suggested. Rest? Hirano asked. You see, there is a place we can use. It's nearby, so we can walk there, said the doctor. Is it your boyfriend's? Saya asked, simply curious. Shizuka take a step back at the accuse. And no, it's belonged to my female friend, she said while flaring her hands in front of her face while occasionally glancing at Naruto. To see if Blonde has not believed that, last thing she need was the person she loves thinks she is keeping things from him. But to her relief Naruto chuckled as mirth was visible in his eyes. She sighed in relief herself. But all other girls seemed to notice it. But they can't do anything. He was captor of many hearts. Meanwhile Saya and Miku was staring at her as if to check if she was lying. She is always busy and traveling because of work. She gave me the key. I go over there while she's gone and let some fresh air in, Shizuka quickly said with a sweat drop, seeing they were looking at her so keenly. Suddenly a dancing Shizuka was seen in maid outfit with duster while singing. Have a nice day. But seems like Hirano's thought were different. Is it an apartment? Is the view good? He asked. Shizuka sighed in relief and sighed. Yeah. Shiai smiled, tilting her head to the side in a cute fashion. It's a maisonette that's next to the river. It's close to convenience store too. Then she remembered something, lifting her index finger. Oh, and she has a car too. It looks like a tank and its thighs big. She finished as she spread her arms wide to prove her point, which caused her boobs to bounce. Well, I am really tired. I will like to shower while there is still working electricity, said Saya. She ran a hand through her pink locks, feeling the stickiness from all the sweat. On the side Hirano was looking at her and thinking, pose with hearts in his glasses, plus a blush. Sounds good, he said softly. However, Saya heard it. Kicking him, you perv. he was sent flying back. Naruto chuckled at their antics, then he took steps towards stairs where the bike was. He spoke, looking over his shoulder with a bored look but a lazy smile present. "We'll go check on it first, Shizuka, come on." With that, he again starts walking. But the other blonde nodded happily. She could spend some time alone with her Naruto. That always feels good to say. "Yeah." She ran off after him. Siko smiled slightly, but a twinge of jealousy flickered in her eyes. And the problem was she could not remove it. Could she ever be special to Naruto like Shizuka? She knew that her sensei has a big place in Naruto's heart, as he always paid a little more attention to her than others. Could she also can get a place there like Shizuka? Sigh, only time will tell. They were riding on the bike. Shizuka was pressing her body against Naruto while her hands were snake around his chest and waist. "The breeze is great," she said, happily enjoying the ride fully. Naruto smiled. He loved her childish smile and cheerfulness. "Shizuka." She still smiled, but, "Does something happen when I was gone?" he asked. She just smiles. "No, nothing happened, we were struck in traffic jam. But Shido-sensei was all time giving his speeches, he was trying to keep me at bus," she said with a frown. Naruto's eyes narrowed. If that snake did anything, he would personally kill him. Then she lit up. "But Hirano-kun stopped him bravely." He smiled at this. "He gave a brave speech too, of how he is grateful to you." Naruto sighed at this. His friend, just. "But then he scared Shido-sensei. Then we all ran away from bus, then we meet you, Naruto-kun." She finished happily, nuzzling her cheek with his. He purred lightly, not able to control himself. However, Shizuka seemed to notice it, looking surprised. That was just like cat. Then she stared at his cheek and has the sudden desire to kiss him. She blushed at her own thoughts, but shook her head and again starting to enjoy the ride. "I love this ride," she sang loudly. Naruto chuckled at her cheerfulness. Suddenly lights started to turn on in a courtyard. When all lights were on, there could be seen a Jeep-type vehicle in green color with a hole in the roof and big tires. They have reached the house Shizuka has told them about. "It's a Humvee! And a military model at that!" Hirano's awed voice was heard, as his mouth hung open, hands twitching in anticipation. "See? Doesn't it look like a tank?" Shizuka stated at Hirano's side with a smile, arms crossed over her chest. "What kind of friend do you have?" Saya asked in still curious but exasperated voice. "I bet those things can't jump the fence," said Rei as she looked around. House was framed with high metal fence. "We should be able to sleep peacefully," she finished. Naruto just smiled as he closed his eyes. "Anyway, we should hurry." He stopped himself, his eyes snapped open as he sensed them. He looked up as he put a hand on his sword hilt. This action caused to tense everybody. They followed his gaze. Surely they were coming. Therefore, Naruto asked the only thing he could think as a smile crept on his. "So, shall we start?" His answer was everybody readying their weapon. And the hell broke loose. Thinking back about it, how everyone changed surprised me. They have accepted that world has changed. They were willing to kill to survive. They changed so much in one day. It pleased as well scared me. Would they change even to him? All girls chatted excitedly as they sat in bathtub and washed themselves. It was heaven for them right now. 1.5 days and they feel like their dream turned real. After escaping school, killing zombies and evading them at every second corner. However, almost more importantly than the fact, it was time for the girls to relax in an ice bath. It was time away from the boys, for them to talk and even gossip a bit, and just have fun. Rei and Miku were playing with Shizuka's friests after a comment from the doctor. "I got that a lot about my friests," and was that a proud smile on her face? That little spike of jealousy can lead to dangerous things. While Saya and Siko, well, let's just say moaning competition was something you don't see every day. In bedroom, Hirano was checking a metal locker while Naruto lay on the bed. "Looks like girls are having fun," said Naruto absent-mindedly. "Would you like to peek, like a real man should?" said Hirano, his voice filled with confidence like it was the noblest deed ever. Naruto snorted but said nothing. He knew he could easily evade their female fury, but it's something even he wants to avoid. Hirano was trying to open a locked compartment. Naruto, could you help me open this? Naruto directed his gaze towards boy. Why? You find something? Hirano nodded while still trying to open the locker. I found ammo, so there has to be. At this, Naruto thought a little. If there were ammo, there would be gun. He also knew about Rika, so there were very much chances of finding a gun. So he got up from the bed. He was standing behind Hirano. Move aside, Hirano. Boy looked at him questioningly but nodded and got aside. Naruto moved forward with a bored face. Hold the handle of the locker with one hand, while other to keep the locker in place. Then, without batting an eye, he tore off the locker door. He then put it aside. He turned to Hirano, who was gaping at Naruto in obvious shock and awe. Man, those muscles are not just for show, he thought as Naruto moved back to bed. You would want to look in the locker, Naruto said from the bed. Hirano turned to the locker, when an evil large grin crept on his face. His face looked truly demonic for a moment. He then went on explaining which gun was which and how it was better. Suddenly he got serious. These will help us in this war, where is no surrendering or negotiation, it will only get worse from here. Naruto smiled as he sat up. Yeah, you are right. All were sitting in the bathtub. It was not big enough for all of them. So both Saya and Siko sat as the side of the tub. It was time for some gossip. And the topic was, So, Yuki, how do you know Naruto? Saya asked. This got all their attention. They all have shared how they met him to someone. At this, Mika smiled a little awkwardly as a pink hue appeared on her face. But all other didn't comment, opted to listen. Well, it started like this. Flashback. The gate of the roof burst opened. A girl came running out of the door. She was quite beautiful as well sexy. She has peachy-colored skin, her eyes golden, her sharp-looking face was framed by shoulder-length orange hair just like Rei. Some falling on her face since there was nothing to hold them back. She wore the school dress just like the other girls. But hers has few differences, skirt a little shorter than normal. Her blouse too tighter, hugging her curvaceous body. Her name was Yuki Miku, one of the sexiest girls in first year. At the moment she was crying as well, running towards the fence of the terrace to mop alone. She ran. Then fell face first on the ground. Ow! She groaned, her tears stopping for the moment. She didn't know what caused her to fall. She was so distracted to notice anything, rubbing her face to ease the pain. But she wasn't ready to hear a voice. You know, it's not nice to walk on sleeping people. A lazy voice drawled. She yelped in surprise, jerking back. She saw the reason of her fall. The most famous boy of the school was sleeping, and she walked over him, her legs still draped across his torso, and was that a sword by his side. She jumped back in shock as well, fright. She knew exactly who he was. Who wouldn't? Sorry! I wasn't looking where I was going. She quickly apologized. It would do no good to get in more trouble, especially with someone like him. Naruto looked over the girl. In his opinion, she was quite a sight and very sexy. He sighed. No reason for me to get angry, since you yourself seems pretty roughed up. She blinked in surprise but nodded. Naruto too nodded. And returned back to his sleep. As for Miku, she didn't have strength to move away. So she too just sat there, hugging her knees sobbing. Naruto sighed, that girl was still here and crying. Why the hell he has to face these types of situations? He had thought he wouldn't have deal with others' problems. But this crying girl was making it very hard. She looked up from her knees when she heard him sigh. He was looking at her with those cerulean-lidded eyes and bored look. They were focused on her like he was about to devour her. She felt like a mice trapped by its predator. Okay, why are you crying? He finally asked. He really can't see weeping women. They reminded too much of his family. She looked away. Why would you care? She retorted. Or else you won't leave me alone. He deadpanned, causing her to glare at him. Yuki Miku, she muttered. Naruto tilted his head to the side. You are crying because of this person? He asked. She sighed. That's my name. After that, she shut up like that explained everything. Naruto stared at her here, causing her to gulp a little. You are Yuki Miku? He asked, with emphasis on the name. Now she outright glared at him. She knew it, all men were saying pigs. He too would criticize her, just like the others. I am a fool to think someone like him would help me, she thought to herself, sulking. Naruto stared at her for a long moment, then, I still don't know who are you, he deadpanned. She face faulted at that, sitting back up with a sweat drop. You really don't know me? She asked with a little hope. He just shook his head. I am in the same year as you, slut of this school, she ends bitterly. Naruto raised a surprised eyebrow at that. Why would you say that? She glared at him. Because whole school thinks I am. She then went on a rant how her best friend as well other friends broke friendship with her. How teachers and classmates wouldn't even give benefit of doubt that she was innocent. How they made her an outcast. It was already few minutes, and she was still ranting with tears falling. Naruto sighed, finally he had enough. With swift movement he pinned her on the floor on her back. His hands restraining her hands over her head. His body pressed on hers, keeping her from moving. His legs entwined with her. If anyone has to walk on them right now, they would think the scene was out of some porn movie. She gasped, her eyes wide. One moment she was sitting on the roof floor ranting, next moment she was on her back, unable to move. A huge blush appeared on her face, when she felt his hard muscles, on her body as well as the close proximity of their faces. She could feel his hot breath on her lips. Finally her eyes matched with his, and fear crept on her being. All she could saw in those half-lidded eyes was lust, unrestrained, untamed. Raging inside him like a storm. It was so much that she almost lost herself. If you don't shut up, I will take you right here and now, he spoke in an eerie calm voice. She looked visibly shaken at that. He could see as well smell fear radiating from her. Now, will you shut up? She shakily nodded, she was scared to wits. Naruto smiled slightly. Without any delay, he let her go again, lying on the roof floor. She lay there still scared. If he had wanted to, he could have taken her, and she would not have able to do anything. Even if she had tried to tell others, they would have thought that she was just trying to scandalize him. No one would have even thought about the possibility of him doing something like this. But he didn't. Why? You are no slut. At this her head snapped to him. But his eyes were closed, while he was using his arms as pillow. I have met sluts before, you didn't even come close to them. He sat up looking at her with his half-lidded eyes. And you are still virgin. At this her blush, which had subsided, returned full force. How? She stuttered. He shrugged. I can tell. Now he looked at her sharply. Now tell me the reason why you were crying. At this she again hugged her knees and started telling him what happened with her. How her boyfriend wanted to have sex with her in only 2 months in the relationship. Thinking since she was open to talking about sex. But when she said she wasn't ready, he tried to force himself on her but managed to get away. She went to her best friend's house since her parents were away on business. When she got there she found out only her friend's boyfriend was there. Here her sobs increased. She went on saying that since she knew him for so long that she never suspected anything until it was almost too late. He pinned her down, ripping the buttons her shirt, revealing her bra. Before he could do anything he heard his girlfriend / her best friend. He managed to pull her on top of him and push her off of him just when she walked in. This caused a massive fight that led her best friend to break their friendship and told her to get out of her house. She even told Naruto that she remembered the guy's smug look on his face. His eyes turned dark the moment he heard that both guys tried to fape. His hand twitched, reaching towards his sword. His eyes were radiating bloodlust like he was about to murder someone. Now she was again openly crying. After calming himself enough so as not to scare the girl, he put a hand on her head. She looked up with tears still running down her face. I smiled at her. I believe in you. At this she couldn't take it anymore. All her pent-up emotions burst out, and she hugged him tightly. Naruto did nothing to stop her. He knew she needed comfort, and he would give her just that. He let her cry, exert her frustration, sadness, anger, everything. After about half an hour her cries turned into sobs, Then finally she stopped crying. But she didn't let go of Naruto. He was warm and she likes it. He too didn't move, just sat there holding her. When the school was over, he asked her the names of the guys. She looked confused but told him. When asked why, he just smiled creepily, then excuses himself, saying he has work to do. She sat there a little while longer, dwelling at his parting words. If your so-called friends didn't believe you, then they are not worthy of being your friends. Next day, she found out that both boys were found in a dumpster behind the school, half beaten to death. And now whenever a woman came even close to them, they would scream like girls, muttering about crazed blondes and crushed nuts. She knew who did it. So she went to meet him. He was leaning on the fence looking over the city, his expression bored as ever. Wind silently caressing him, making his hair slap across his face. She silently walked behind him. Do you want something, Mika? He asked without even looking back. She stopped, blushing that he called her by her name. Looking at her feet, embarrassed. She paused. Get a hold of yourself, Miku, taking a deep breath. I want to thank you. At this he turned around, looking at her with a raised eyebrow. For what? She looked down. For believing in me when others didn't. He walked forward, placing a hand on the girl's head. He smiled slightly. Hey, what are friends for? At this her eyes widened, but then tears came to her eyes. Here was a boy whom she barely knew who called her his friend, who believed in her while others didn't. He accepted her just like that, no secret motives. That was the day they became friends. While for her she fell head over heels for him. Flashback end. All were surprised at how they become friends. They also felt bad for Yuki that she has to get through something that bad. Rei understood why her friend cried. She herself was in that situation prior to few hours. Suddenly Siko giggled, getting attention of all. She smiled. It's just like him, he would go to any lengths for his friends. At this all smiled, because they knew how much it was true. He cherished them like they were the most precious treasure of his life. They didn't know how correct they are in their assumption. They sat at the side of bed. Hirano was loading bullets in magazine. Naruto chuckled. It's good for you, now I can have my gun back. At this Hirano paused. He turned to Naruto and smiled hesitantly. Yeah, Naruto, can you tell me why you have that gun? He asked a little hesitant. After all, it's his life. He has no right to interfere except asking as a friend. Naruto just smiled. I work for SDF and police force. Huh, you work for police? Was Hirano's dumbfounded response. Naruto nodded. I am there, what you could say, hired assassin. Hirano gulped. But why would they hire you? Naruto sighed lightly. I have skills that their assassins couldn't match. I could wipe out a whole company without being caught. I never failed a mission. I only answered to the commander. It's my choice which mission to take. I would do those that police can't get involved with or is out of their league. Hirano was now staring at Naruto in new light of awe. However, the blonde continued. Not many knew about my identity since I always wore a mask. That gun I wanted to buy, but it has to be imported. I asked Commander about this. He ordered it for me and gave as a gift for my work. Naruto smiled. He was thankful to Commander. Hirano too smiled. His friend was great after all. What? Naruto work for SDF and police force? Saya all but shouted. All other girls were staring at Rei in shock. They couldn't comprehend what they were listening. Rei nodded. I was in just as much shock, she said to help to subdue their shock. Siko just has asked Rei how Naruto has gone, as he had said it was his. But this answer they were not expecting. Did he tell you? Asked Shizuka. Rei shook his head. My father seemed to know him too well, and he mentioned something about mission, so I asked him when we were resting in an apartment. All girls nodded but seemed to recognize Rei has a blush on her face. So what post he is? Asked Saya. Naruto was becoming more of a puzzle. All were waiting for her answer. She put a finger on her chin. He is not an official. All girls looked at her confused. He said he is a hired assassin. Saya raised an eyebrow, while Siko narrowed her eyes in thought while Shizuka too looked thoughtful. Miku just waited for Rei to continue, She has already learned that anything was possible with her crush/love interest. Police hiring an assassin? Asked Saya skeptical. Ray nodded. He said he was hired for his skills, he only answered to the commander, and that many doesn't know his identity. Now they all nodded. Siko knew there is a difference between their skills, but damn. To be hired by the SDF, you truly are amazing, Naruto-kun. While Saya for SDF to hire him, he must have far better skills than their own assassins, damn. I can't read him. Shizuka, does Naruto-kun know Rika? Ray then chuckled again, gaining their attention. He too gets some quirks from his job. What are those? Asked Siko. Ray giggled. Like don't attend the class, sleep all day and still not get expelled, got his own private room in school, allowed to bring weapons and also allowed to bring cell phone. They all giggled a little. Now they understood how he gets out of the trouble so easily. They also deduced that as an assassin, he would work at night, that's why he sleeps at school. Well, they were partially true. Naruto was helping Hirano to load the clips. Now he was standing by the window, binoculars in hand. There was noise coming from bathroom. They are being too noisy, Hirano said with a pout. It's fine, Naruto said as he used binoculars to search the nearby area. His night vision was helping a lot. But binoculars provide long vision. They are attracted to noise, but noise is coming from. Police were trying to escort people from the bridge. But they were having much difficulty. They can't contact to the headquarters, and their last order was to do anything to protect order. And they would do just that. They are not faring any good, Naruto muttered as he handed binoculars to Hirano. He entered the room. I remember a scene like this from Apocalypse Now, Hirano said. Then suddenly something attracted his attention. What is that? He asked as he gazed at the people on the bridge. What happened? Asked Naruto. Turn on the TV. Naruto raised an eyebrow but complied. On the TV, they could see people were protesting against the police. The abuse of power by police is unforgivable. We believe that this killer pandemic is caused by biological weapons. There was a journalist right now. We're live at the demonstrations of those that are against this lockdown. The nature of this group is unknown. Killer pandemic, heh? Naruto chuckled a little. I guess they are talking about the living dead, replied Hirano while eyeing Naruto. He couldn't understand how Naruto could still laugh. According to these handouts from the group, they believe that this was caused by the leak of biological weapons developed by Japanese and Americans' government. Naruto chuckled lightly. What are you laughing at? Asked Hirano, a little creeped out by his friend. They are controlled by their fear, they are not thinking with logic. There's no way science can explain how corpses are able to move and attack people. Well, that would be the usual backstory if we were in a movie or a game, or maybe. Hirano stopped as a gunshot was heard from the television. They watched as police started attacking. One police officer shot down the protesters' leader. Then the TV signal went off. This is insane. Well, this is just starting, Naruto said with a chuckle. Hirano looked at his friend and asked the question he wanted to ask for a while. Naruto? How can you still laugh? With all this going on. You were always smiling even when we are fighting them? Hirano asked. Naruto closed his eyes and smiled. Hirano, smile, act like a stress relief in this situation. It will give you hope and conviction that we can succeed. It provides my friends reassurance, so it is easy for me to smile. After all, it's leader's duty to keep the morale high. At this, Hirano has a wide smile on his face. He was thinking Blonde was going insane, but that was not the case. He was doing this for them. He then had a somber look on his face. He was always doing anything for his friend. Does he ever do anything for himself? To smile in the face of death. But from now on, Hirano too will try this and smile. Hirano was staring at the blonde, when suddenly two arms come out of shadow. Hirano jerked back in shock. However, Naruto's didn't move, but a smile tugged to his lips. What are you doing here, Shizuka? Naruto asked. Shizuka smiled as she laid a hand around his shoulder, her boobs glomping on side of his face, other hand going downward towards Naruto's crotch. Naruto-kun, she whispered in his ear, as she kissed him on the cheek. But Naruto caught her other hand. Shizuka, Are you? He asked, half amused, half exasperated. But he couldn't blame her. This was really taxing. Shizuka noticed Hirano standing on the side. She started to crawl towards him like a predator. Kota-chan, she said in a sing-song voice, while Hirano has a blush on his face on being called cutie. Chan? He shied away as Shizuka reached him. You have been a good boy, so here your reward. She kissed him on the cheek. But this turned out to be too much for the gun freak as he turned red and falling back because of massive nosebleed. Naruto was chuckling humorously on the other side. Naruto then turned to look at Shizuka. Shizuka, why are you up here? You should be downstairs. Shizuka looked at Naruto in desire-filled gaze. She needed him. But I want to be with Naruto-kun. She then hugged him and whispered, I want to stay like this forever. She looked into his eyes as if pleading. Naruto stared right back. He knew Shizuka wanted to talk to him about something. He sighed as he removed himself from her grip. Sit here, he ordered, and she followed with a pout. Naruto went to the other room and came back with a single-piece dress. It was for sleeping in light pink color. A sundress. As Naruto entered the room with the dress causing Shizuka's face lit up. As Naruto reached the bed. Hirano, be on the lookout, said Naruto. Hirano tried to respond, but he still was in daze. So could not make a coherent reply but went outside to do the job. Naruto then turned to Shizuka. Now open your towel, he said. Outside, Hirano got another nosebleed. Stumbling, he used the open glass door for support. Shizuka smiled as she drops the towel. Naruto could see her large frieze clearly. Her fipples were pink and luscious, were hardened by the cool air coming from the window as well as the thought of doing things with him. They seemed rather delicious to Naruto. Shizuka was also in mood. Ah, Naruto-kun, you perv, she singed in seductive voice. Naruto just smiled, thankful for the self-control he has. Hi, now raise your hands. She pouted. She was drunk but in enough control. She does as was told. Naruto brought the dress over her head, then pulled it down. It goes little down then waist, barely covering her face. On her buxom, it was a rather tight fit. In real, it seems like they would pop out any moment. Shizuka couldn't understand. She knew she was beautiful, as many has said, she has all the curves, but Naruto could still resist her. She then looked at Naruto, who has his arms forward. Shizuka gave a surprised eep as Naruto scooped her bridal style. He then proceeded to go for the stairs. Shizuka was a tad disappointed. She wanted to talk with him. But I feel like a princess now, with my prince, she said as her arms wrapped around his neck. Naruto smiled. But you are a princess, he said. She blushed at the comment. But then she noticed he wasn't going downstairs but upstairs. Naruto-kun? She looked at him questioningly. He just smiled. They were at the roof staring at the stars, sitting on a stone bench which was cold, but she didn't feel it since she was sitting on Naruto's lap. Her back pressed against his chest, his arms around his waist. She too was staring at the stars. Right now, she was feeling content, like her life was full. Then, so, what you want to talk about, Shizuka? Naruto asked softly. Shizuka bit her lip. She was wrong. Naruto always knew what she was thinking. Naruto-kun. She was feeling timid. I love you, she proclaimed hastily. She shut her eyes in fear. Fear of his rejection, fear that he will not want to meet her again, that he will distance himself from her. Fear gripped her heart. Would she be able to live like that? She heard him sigh. You are drunk, Shizuka. We will talk tomorrow. Suddenly a fire burned inside her like a furnace. She was not drunk. I am not drunk. I love you, Naruto-kun. Please, understand. Naruto again sighed, but she felt like it was laced with pain. I am a monster, Shizuka. I have killed hundreds of people, but that was your job. She argued. I have killed people even before my job, he replied softly. She was quiet for a moment. She knew he was telling the truth, but why would he kill people? Why? She asked. Revenge, was his soft reply. Revenge? She asked. Naruto nodded. They killed my family. I killed them. She gasped. His family was murdered. There was no way he wants to talk about it. I still love you, she said softly. Even if you have to live for eternity? He asked another question. She was caught off guard by that type of question. Was he joking around? No, his tone was serious. What do why you mean? She asked hesitantly. He was serious just now. He sighed. He was doing that a lot lately. I can't die of old age, Shizuka. What? Where I first lived. He started a news story and she listened intently. He was telling her about his past. I was their living weapon. She gasped at that. A living weapon. They will scorn me, call me names, beat me, torture me. As he continued, tears start gathering at corner of her eyes. Those scars are from my childhood. My body heal normal wounds and scars easily, so they make it a game who could left a scar. Now tears were falling from her eyes. How could they do this to a child? The leader of my village, whom I trust the most, lied to me. He let all that happen to me. My trust in him was gone. Shizuka could not comprehend how he could still smile. He was betrayed too. So when I was 12 I ran away. I left that hellhole behind. Her tears held back a little. But I was gravely injured. I was going to die. That's when I met a demon. She stopped crying. Demon? Yes. He chuckled a little. You know, demons are not like our stories. Huh? There are all types of demons, good, bad, royal, stupid, bloodthirsty, prideful, any type. She was now listening completely new thing. But gods have set codes for them. Codes? Yes, they're rules for life, which they can't break, no matter how strong the demon was. He sighed as he put his chin on her head. She did not say anything at the action. They say, among demons the greatest sin is abusing a child. Why? She asked, curious, confused, and in awe. Child has a pure soul that even a demon can't taint. They don't have hatred. She nodded in understanding. Of course, child would be pure. So when the demon found me, he took pity on me and saved my life. She smiled a little. But everything come with a price. My curse was eternal life, immortality. I can't grow old. Inside his mind, QB smiled sadly. Kid has forgiven him, but could he forgive himself? But he give me few privileges. I can't get a disease, my body is always fit, and the person bound to me will live as long as I live. Bound? She questioned. Yes, if you accept me we will form a bond to which we will be bind. We can't break it. It will be for forever. Your body will not age. No natural act would be able to kill you. There was silence for a few minutes. Still think you can accept me? Asked Naruto quietly as he gazed at the night sky. Then he looked back down. Shizuka was too, staring at his face. She looked into his eyes like to find something, and she found something. He was trying to hide it, but it was easily visible. He was vulnerable just now, like he was on his last leg, which may be true. What she would say would affect him immensely. She could see his heart laying there completely broken. If she stepped on that loving heart, would she be able to move on? No, she won't be able to forget him. She loved him too much to just forget. I still love you, she replied, still looking into his eyes. They widened in shock, then they narrowed as tears start falling from the corner of his eyes. Even if you have to share me. Just last question, he wanted to make sure. She has a twitch in her eye, but it subdued quickly. Yes, I will still love you, and in this situation we should have some more companions, she said with a wink. Naruto swiftly turned her around, hugging her tightly to himself as if to merge with her. He chuckled loudly. She sighed in content. It was better than she has ever imagined. Being in the arms of the person she loved, who accepted after all her quirks. Feeling that he would always be there for her, and her there for him. It was euphoric. How can you love someone like me? He asked in strained voice, still hugging her tightly. Tears were too falling from her eyes, but she didn't mind, they were tears of happiness. I don't know, but I love you from the first time I saw you. He smiled widely. You will always be mine, cute ditzy girl. She sighed. Yes. He then lifted her chin, making her look into his eyes. He smiled. Tears had stopped. He brought his face closer to hers. Her heartbeat started racing. He was going to kiss her. What should she do? He was coming closer. She could hear her heart thumping in her ears. As his lips come closer, hers open a little in anticipation. She closed her eyes. Their lips met, and her mind went blank. The euphoric feeling before was nothing compared to this. She was on cloud nine. His lips felt soft as he gently laid them on hers. He licked her lower lip asking for permission. She opens her mouth eagerly. His tongue invade her mouth, searching every corner, every spot not to miss anything. Their tongues entangle with each other, exchanging their saliva. It was like a silent war between them. Shizuka tried to push his tongue back, but he easily overpowered her. All she could do was moan in pleasure. They felt like they were kissing for hours, but it was only 3 minutes. They parted, both were gasping for air. They leaned on each other that their foreheads were touching. A thin trail of saliva connecting them. Shizuka smiled and again captured his lips. Naruto complied happily. They didn't even know how long they were there. It was about half an hour when they returned down. Shizuka was asleep in Naruto's arms. He was smiling as regular, but there was something different. As he was coming down Shizuka in his arms bridal style, Rei was waiting for him on the stairs. Hands on her hips. "What are you so happy about?" Rei asked with an evil expression. Naruto's sweat dropped a little. Really, what were these girls thinking? "I was happy because I won a lottery," was Naruto's smart reply. Rei marched forward with curt steps. Naruto took a step back from the angry-looking girl. Then suddenly, there are 3 Narutos," Rei said with stars in her eyes. Naruto's sweat dropped big time. "Huh? There are a lot of you." She then falls back on her butt in daze. Naruto shook his head in amusement. "Don't tell me you too." Rei hung her head. "But I was all worn out. Everything went crazy in just a day and I can't even contact my dad. Hisashi died too." She started crying. Naruto sighed. He has to talk to her later. He proceeded downstairs, laying Shizuka on the mattress beside Miku, covering her with a blanket. He caresses her cheek lovingly, then bent down, kissing her on forehead. You could see a blonde fox tattoo. Mouth was in center. It was curled into a spiral. He had marked her, and she had happily accepted it. He heard snoring and saw Saya asleep on the sofa. He chuckled a little. His attention went to Miku as she was mumbling in her sleep. He brought an ear close to her mouth to listen what she was saying. Naruto-kun, kiss me." Naruto smiled slightly, looking at her face. She looked completely peaceful, and a little aroused. So he decided to complete her wish, and placed a kiss on her forehead. A smile on her face, without her even knowing. Naruto was searching the fridge for something to drink. "Naruto-kun?" Siko asked. Our late-night snack will be ready soon. It will be our lunch for tomorrow as well." I didn't know that you like cooking?" he asked her with an eye smile as he closed the door of the fridge. Then he looked at her, and sweat dropped. "Are they all trying to seduce me?" he questioned to himself. There was Siko cooking in only panties with a white apron. It was revealing too much to leave anything to imagination. But Naruto just raised his eyebrows in surprise. Siko was looking at him from the corner of her eye. But inwardly sighed in disappointment. He didn't even blush. What type of self-control does he have? She then turned her head towards him, then in feigned concern. "What's wrong?" She saw his little surprised but still lazy face. "Oh, you mean this?" "I was unable to find any clothes that could fit me. So I decided to wear this cloth until the laundry is finished. I suppose it revealed too much." Naruto smiled lazily, and waved his hand dismissively as he put the straw in juice pack. He proceeded to move towards Siko as he sipped some juice, who was again cooking food, but she knew he was coming close. A light blush spread across her cheeks. He stood behind her. She could feel his warm breath on her neck, causing her to shiver. He snaked an arm around her waist. Sticking his front to her back, her breath hitched. Her heart was thumping loudly in her chest. But she didn't do anything to stop him. She still shakily stirred the stew. He brought his face adjacent to her, their cheeks almost touching. She blushed deep red at this. It smells good," he said with a smile. He brought his juice packet to her lips. "Here, take a sip," he said. She stumbled upon her words. She was trying to control herself, but he was just out of his league. All her pride as a warrior didn't do a thing in this situation. He frowned a little, then he smirked. He turned his head to her, and gently he kissed her on cheek. She gasped loudly. Her eyes were wide in shock. She couldn't comprehend just what happened now. He kissed me. Just as she was about to close her mouth, Naruto popped the straw into her mouth. For a moment, she was in daze. Then she realized there was something in her mouth. She looked down to see juice straw in her mouth. Here, drink, he whispered in her ear. She complied this time. That was all she could do. After she took her sip, Naruto took his. Now, that wasn't so hard. He smiled. She too smiled, little shyly, but nodded. Naruto rested his head on her shoulder as she continued to cook. You know, we don't know when they will attack. She smiled. Don't worry, you will be there to protect me. He smiled. So much faith in me. She giggled at his tone. Yeah, you and Hirano-kun are keeping watch. Naruto too smiled. They were all trusting each other. However, their mood was destroyed. Hey Naruto! Listen to me! Rei's annoyed plus slurred voice. Naruto sighed while Siko giggled. Naruto! She again shouted. Siko. I think you should see what she wants. At times, girls enjoy acting helpless. She said with a smile. Naruto caressed her cheek with the back of his hand. He whispered. That goes for you too, my little samurai girl. She blushed but giggled lightly. Yeah. But. Naruto, hey! Naruto! Rei shouted. Naruto and Siko sighed exasperatedly. In balcony, who was keeping watch suddenly has a nosebleed with a perverted smile. He quickly wiped it, shaking his head, pay attention. He then again went to keep watch, but the perverted smile kept appearing again and again. Like I said, Hisashi was really sweet. Naruto was sipping his juice sitting at the staircase with Rei. That's why I really want to, even when I felt lonely. He was always there to listen to me. Even when I had to repeat the grade. Naruto was staring ahead. But all you do was ignore me. He chuckled hollowly. Sorry, that was all I could do. Naruto replied. She looked at him. What do you mean? That's why you are so boring. That's how I am. He replied with a hollow smile. However, Rei was not paying attention. You are always like this. And I won't change myself. I have my own problems too. That's why me and Hisashi. Together. I was happy for my friend. What do you mean? Do you really think he will betray me and accept you behind my back? He asked her seriously. What does she know about Hisashi? He asked me if I was fine with it. I said it's okay. Hisashi was. Shut up. Naruto said loudly, startling Rei. What do you know about him? Do you even know what was going on with his family? Rei stared at Naruto wide-eyed as tears were gathering in corner of her eyes. He was in pain. His family was breaking apart. He was falling in misery. That's why when he asked me, I gave him my wishes. He then stared at Rei as if she was an inferior being. He knew that you are being with him just to make me jealous. At this jab, her tears fall. But he accepted you. Don't spit on his death by making his memory pitiful. He gave his life to save you, my best friend. He is gone. Stop running away from reality. We are alive and we will remain alive, not for me then for Hisashi. So stop talking about him and try to complete his last wish. Naruto stopped as he felt a pull on his kimono's sleeve. Rei was staring at ground. As she proceeded to move forward to kiss, Naruto at the last moment brought her into a hug. She was startled, but then she cried. Cried that she betrayed her love, couldn't understand others' love, and was still not able to get his apology. But he hugged her. That was enough for now. On the bridge, bulldozers were rowed over the undead and other livings that were left behind. As they were sitting against the railing, they heard barking noises. There is a dog barking, Rei said. Naruto sighed as he. Voice is coming from somewhere near. He stood up, marching upstairs. Hirano? Asked Naruto as he reached the balcony. This is bad, said Hirano in a serious voice. Naruto peered from the balcony. He too inwardly cursed. They were gathering, again. I underestimated this new world. Problem was now just beginning. Massacre was going on the bridge, and nobody was there to save them. Once again, the streets were filling with the undead. At the house, girls were sleeping peacefully. Saya was sleeping on the couch while Shizuka and Miku were sleeping on the mat. A thin sheet of sweat covered their bodies, making them all more attractive as it glistened under the dim light in the room. Naruto-kun! Shizuka mumbled in her sleep, smiling heartedly. Rei was sitting in stairs still in little daze. Siko was bending low, much like in a provocative pose, while she was checking fridge. She brought a vegetable close to her lips, and smiled with a blush as she remembered. He kissed me, what would it feel like, own lips? She was still giddy from that little kiss. The pleasant shivers it sent down her spines were something she wanted to feel again. Siko stopped her packing as she heard gunfire. Outside, a single guy was shooting them, who was later devoured by the undead. Siko stood beside Naruto as she looked through binoculars. Naruto's hands were inside his kimono sleeves. Hirano on the other side was holding a gun. Indeed, the situation is getting worse, Siko said as she lowered the binoculars. Shit, Naruto, Hirano said. Naruto replied as he continued to stare over. Are we gonna shoot them? Asked Hirano through gritted teeth. Naruto just closed his eyes, instead Siko responded. Have you forgotten that they react to sound, Hirano-kun? Hirano looked at her, not even getting a nosebleed due to her dress, or lack of it. And the living will gather here once they notice the light and our figures. Naturally, we lack the ability to help those who are still alive. She gave the binoculars to Hirano. Look out for yourself. This has become a place where you cannot survive on chivalry alone. As she proceeded to go down the steps, she spoke once more. Whether you like it or not, I am merely stating the truth. Siko, aren't you forgetting something? Naruto spoke out of blue, and it was something completely unexpected on her part. Siko stopped in her movements. What? She asked, a little confused. Naruto sighed. You'll remember. Siko nodded, and went down the stairs. Hirano gritted his teeth, but gave Naruto the binoculars. Naruto was looking upon many people with a passive expression as they were being killed. Hirano also saw while watching through the gun's scope. Suddenly Naruto's breath hitched, as a little girl's father was killed by people from the house. His eyes burned purple as the pupil elongated into slits. When he gazed at the girl, he remembered the broken body of her Sia-chan. His blood began to boil. If he had to, he would kill everyone in that house, just to save the little girl. Hirano too saw the undead come near the crying girl. He gritted his teeth, looking almost out of control. Hirano, Naruto said in a grave voice as Hirano focused on Naruto. Naruto continued to stare in the direction of the girl. Make your decision, now! Hirano gritted his teeth in frustration. Hirano, now! Naruto said a little loudly just across his point. Hirano answered by setting his gun up and, let's rock and roll. He shot the bullet with a wide grin on his face. The bullet hit an undead man straight in the head who was about to attack the little auburn head. I've never used this gun before, and I just scored a headshot with it. I am a genius! Though to be fair, they are not even 100 meters away. He shot a few more of them. As the girl comes to her senses, she starts to back up into a corner. He then continues to shoot more of the undead. In the house, Siko heard the gunshots from above along with Rei. She knew what was happening. Looks like it was time. The puppy rushed to where the crying sound was heard. Naruto smiled at his friend. His eyes were still half slits. They will be like this until he completed his mission. Hirano? Yeah? Hirano answered. What happened to not shooting, and abandoning people to save ourselves? Naruto asked, a little amused, and the auburn girl came into view. Dude, look, it's a little girl, he said animatedly. You're going to rescue her, right? I'll back you up from here, Hirano said and smirked while he turned around to look over his shoulder. Of course I will. I would rather forfeit my life than abandon a child, Naruto said quietly for no one to pick up, but Hirano heard it. Just now he says that like he has experienced it, How much pain have you endured, Naruto? Gunotaku asked himself. Naruto entered the room, and in one swift motion his sword was on the left side of his waist. The magnum fully loaded was on the right side, and extra bullets sealed in the sleeves of his kimono. As he proceeded down the stairs, Rei was standing at the bottom waiting for him. Naruto! I have a little rescue mission, Naruto responded, but she didn't seem to notice Naruto's eyes. Then I'll go with Dash. She started, but stopped when Naruto looked at her from the corner of his eyes. No, you guys guard the gate. I can't defend two people at the same time while fighting. But Dash! Rei tried to argue but was cut off. Let him go! The man has spoken, Siko said. Naruto smiled as he closed to the gate. He stopped by Siko's side as she stood with her arms folded. Looks like you remembered, huh? He asked, and a smile appeared on her face. Yeah, she replied, little guilty to forget something so important. Naruto chuckled as he walked past when Siko spun her sword in her hand a few times, then held it in her right hand, the other on her hip, giving a sexy pose. Siko spoke. We shall guard this place no matter what. You can go without a worry. Naruto smirked, then silently went out. All the waking members except Hirano walked out of the house with him. Instead of opening the gate, he leaped over it with a chakra-enhanced jump, landing on the head of an undead, crushing it just from the pressure of his feet. Heads of two others rolled off of their bodies, after Naruto flicked his blade to the side. A grin slowly appeared on his face as he starts jogging forward. Let's have some fun! His jog broke into a sprint, and in no time he was phasing through the undead like a breeze. The undead he passed fell on the floor. Some were bisected, some had their heads removed, and some had their limbs chopped off. One thing to be denoted, no one's body was left intact. Inside the house, Saya has woken up. From the balcony, Hirano was shooting whoever was in the way of Naruto. He weaves through them narrowly, while a lazy grin was still present on his face. What's all the commotion about? Asked Saya as she came out of the house. Rei and Siko turned to her with smiles. Something pleasant, Rei replied. Huh, was Saya's response. Siko just smiled, a little discreetly as she said, we realize that we're still human. Hirano was grinning like a man, and while shooting the undead, he reloaded his gun in a swift motion like an expert, and continued shooting. As he neared the house, he saw that they were flocking the gate trying to reach the child. He smirked. You people are really getting on my nerves. He reached the gate. Without breaking his momentum, he twirled around, coating the sword with wind chakra. He gave a diagonal slash, from down to upside. Uzumaki Kenjutsu Kaze no Sukan. Uzumaki-style wind scar. Just then a fierce wind resembling that of a claw passed over the undead. Everything was silent for a moment. But suddenly they flew back, their bodies splitting apart, showering the area in a spray of gore and blood. Chunks of rotten meat flew back everywhere, falling on the walls, streets, and on other undead as well. It was an amazing sight for a demon, even if he wasn't as bloodthirsty as the others. Still, the sight of blood excited him. Without any further wait, he ran inside the house, kicking the first one into the wall, making a slight dent, and diagonally sliced the other. He sliced the third's head, only half, leaving his tongue flipping inside his now open mouth much like a tail of a lizard. Suddenly he heard barking from behind. When he turned around, he saw that two were closing in on the little girl, but they were far enough for him to reach in time. Therefore, he turned towards the gate, trying to shut the door. As he reached, they were shot down. Naruto smirked, closing the door. He really is a genius. On the balcony, Hirano was grinning while aiming. Of course I am. He was a little excited after the display of power and speed by Naruto. If he had to say, Naruto easily broke the world record for the 100-meter sprint. The white puppy in front of the girl was barking and trying to scare away the undead, but it was doing just the opposite. The girl cried in fear. Stop, go away! I haven't done anything bad, Daddy, Daddy! But they didn't back off. She cried out again. No! Shutting her eyes tight. Just as it was about to bite the girl, Naruto has unsheathed his blade and was behind the dead within a second. He gave a side slash from the blunt side of sword. The undead's head caved in just like a watermelon in beach games, as it hit the wall hard, splattering blood all over the wall too. The puppy barked happily, as the girl opened her eyes with tears still settled in the corners of them. Naruto smiled at the girl as he hit another one of them without even looking. "So, how are you?" asked Naruto. The girl's sweat dropped, even the little puppy's sweat dropped. She almost got beaten and he asked this. Fine." Naruto nodded with that same smile on his face. "That's good." With that he stood up, the smile not leaving his face. He turned to face the undead. "How dare you scare this little girl?" He spoke while radiating a chilling aura. Title of demon fit will fit him perfectly just now. Naruto moved forward, slicing the head of the first, cleaving the second in half, and ramming the sword into the third's forehead. Naruto turned back towards the girl, smile still present. "Behind you, Oni-chan." Naruto froze for a second, still staring at the girl, but without turning around he brought out the magnum in his left hand, aiming backward. It was put in Undead's mouth, he pulled the trigger, and the head burst open as the rest of the body flew back. Naruto just stared at the girl while voices rang in his head. "Oni-chan, let's go to temple. Oni-chan, I want a new toy." "Of course, Sia-chan, that do you want? I will bring you from the city. I want a sword just like yours so I can protect Ka-san and Tu-san." Naruto chuckled and ruffled her hair. "I will make you one myself when you grow up." She held out her pinky finger. "Promise?" Naruto smiled happily, joining his pinky finger with hers. "Promise." "Oni-chan, I love you." "I love you too, my little princess." He was brought out of his thoughts as the little girl tugged on his hakama. He looked down at the girl who has picked up the puppy, and held it in her arms. "Oni-chan." She spoke softly, looking at him. Naruto smiled as a single tear fell from his eye. The girl seemed to notice this, but didn't say anything. Naruto smiled down at the girl. "So what's your name?" The girl smiled back and said, "My name is Alice Marisato, nice to meet you." Naruto chuckled as he ruffled the little girl's hair. "I am Naruto, nice to meet you too." Alice's smile widened. "You know, you remind me of my little sister," Naruto suddenly said. Alice blinked. "Little sister?" "She went somewhere far away," said Naruto as he smiled sadly, as did Alice. "She went far away just like her father." Meanwhile in the house. "Shizuka-sensei, wake up!" Saya said in scolding tone. "Miku has woken up a little while ago, and was now helping others carry the stuff to the car." Shizuka stirred a little as she finally sat up, and instantly started making a kissing face. "Naruto-kun, give me a kiss!" At this Saya got ticked off. Of all the things she has dreamt something like this, which she too dreams, waiting that someday this would happen in reality. She stomped forward. "Quit being childish!" Saya then grabbed her cheeks and started pulling them. Shizuka cried with tears forming in her eyes, while Saya inwardly grinned. Stop it!" Shizuka wailed in pain. When Saya finally stopped, Shizuka, lost in her own thoughts again. Was that all a dream? "No, I know I was with Naruto-kun, the mark." She looked over her left shoulder, and to her relief there was still a fox blonde tattoo on her neck. She squealed in delight, like a teenage girl. To Saya, Shizuka was glimmering like a light bulb. Pinkhead's sweat dropped. What happened to her? She thought to herself. Hirano. Hirano, with a smile on his face, recognized the voice. Takagi-san. He turned around, and lost all his confidence as held the gun between his legs to hide his boner, as both were wearing really erotic clothes. But seems to forget about his nose as it began to bleed. But Saya paid it no heed. They have much important things to do. Get ready to run, we can't stay here. We have been causing way too much commotion, you need to get ready to move, Saya ordered. Hirano straightened up, and looked outside, not wanting to feel the female fury again anytime soon. Oh, okay. The other two girls were standing guard at the gate when Saya and Shizuka came down. Miyamoto, let Busujima-senpai stand guard. You should be helping Mika, she is only one getting the stuff in the car. She then turned to Shizuka. Mao, Shizuka-sensei, would you put on some undergarments? Shizuka panicked a little in her cute ditzy way. Oh. So that's why it feels so airy. She was still wearing that almost transparent sundress. She jogs back inside the house to get some undergarments. So, is the car ready? Saya asked. Now would be a good time to get in. They are being drawn toward Naruto-kun. Siko replied from her position. Saya bent down on the railing to look over the street but then deflated. What should we do? He won't be able to get back here with the girl, she said with a frown, her worries for his well-being coming to the surface. Then all we can do is go meet up with him, right? Shizuka asked, as she was now clad in purple panties. All the girls stared at her strangely, making Shizuka nervous. Did I say something strange? I also have the keys, she said while putting a hand on her face, tilting it to the side, looking all the more adorable. No, it's a fine idea, Siko replied, and Mika nodded as she stopped putting the stuff in for a moment. Saya turned around swiftly, making her boobs bounce. Then that's our only option. We are all set. After we pick up Naruto, we will go to the other side of the river. Her glasses gleamed under the light. Get ready, she exclaimed. Naruto was looking around, extending his senses to find anyone in the courtyard, but no one was found. Oni-chan. Naruto looked down at little Alice, who was staring at her father's body. Daddy is dead. She spoke softly, doing her best not to cry. Naruto glanced at the body sadly, moving forward. Oni-chan? She spoke confused a little. Alice came near Naruto as he took a shirt and covered the body. He died protecting you, so you should be happy he saved your life and loved you to the end. He broke off a flower from a nearby stem. At his words, her tears that have been held back because of fear started pouring out and dripped off her chin. She took the flower from Naruto and gently laid it on her father's chest. Daddy, she sobbed out. Naruto put one hand on her head, and she instantly latched onto Naruto as she wept. Naruto brought his arms around her in a tight embrace to provide the girl some safety, as well reassurance. She cried her heart out, as Naruto looked up at the sky. So many are going to end up like this. We have a lot of stuff. Do you think it will all fit? Asked Miku. Ask yourself how we're supposed to get it in instead. What if they come while we are loading? Asked Rei. Saya turned around to them. We have to be sneaky about it, like a thief in an MMORPG. Siko smiled. Then we shall do it that way, she said as she opened the gate. Siko stood on guard as Shizuka got in the driver's seat. Rei and Saya helped Mika in loading their stuff, but to her displeasure she plopped down on driver's seat, but her panicking strike begun, again. Huh? What the? The steering wheel is on the other side. She fumbled while the others packed rest of the stuff. Alice was still sobbing while Naruto held her. Sure, it's okay, Oni-chan is with you. Alice slowly stopped crying and nodded. Can we not get out? She asked, seeing there was no way to leave through the gate. Well, there are so many on the street. Naruto almost deadpanned, but stopped himself. He was talking to a child, being sarcastic wouldn't help here. Can't we escape from somewhere other than the street? She asked with a pouty voice. Well, I can think a few ways. Then his eyes fell on a wall, and smirked. Well, looks like we found our ticket. We'll load up, you rescue Naruto and the girl and get away safely. Sounds good, but there's too many for a Humvee to handle. We'll need something like a tank to get over there and rescue them. Suddenly a light shone on his face. He looked down to see that Takagi was signaling for him to come down, and he signaled back. He started packing his guns. Alternatively, Naruto would need to find a way out. He then looked up. A gleam of realization passed as he grinned. I see, you sure are a genius, Naruto, he said and proceeded to go down. Good job, Naruto, muttering to himself. Naruto was casually walking on the edge of a wall, one step after another. The pup was situated in front of Naruto's kimono while Alice was on his back. Just then the puppy started licking his face. You know, I would have liked it if it was a girl who was licking my face. Naruto deadpanned. Alice used her hands to stop the white puppy. Bad boy. Naruto smiled at her. Thanks, so, are you scared, Alice-chan? he asked as he reached the second house wall. Yeah, are you? She asked curiously. Naruto's smile remained on his face. Nah, I'm used to this, he casually replied. Alice was only 7 years old, but even she knew this was a serious situation. How was her new brother so casual about it? The puppy couldn't talk, so he just sweat dropped, which caused Alice to giggle. In the car, Shizuka was rubbing her head trying to understand how this thing runs. While they finished loading their stuff, Saya asked, Where is Hirano? Isn't he still upstairs? Ray replied. Geez, is he amazing or stupid? Asked Saya as she was about to call him again. But said boy chose that moment to appear in front of her. Easily scaring her to death, his current get-up did help him, a little. Hirano was laced with guns with both hands on back, and ammo belts across his chest. Torches by the side of his head were put in place with a white strip of cloth. Everyone stared at him incredulously, and then all sweat dropped except Shizuka, who was still busy. What's up? He asked hesitantly. You seem to be having fun, Saya said sarcastically. But Hirano just grinned. Hey, this is nothing compared to Naruto's baggage. Alice-chan, what did you say? He asked quietly, almost dreading the answer. I need to pee, Alice replied softly, a little embarrassed as well. Can you hold it in? Asked Naruto, hoping he could at least cross this street. No, I can't, she said. Seems like luck wasn't on his side. Naruto's sweat dropped at his predicament. He was surrounded by hundreds of undead, the world has come to end, and there was a girl on his back who had to pee. Well, he had no choice but to sweat drop. Leader his ass. Oni-chan, I can't hold it any longer, she said. Naruto sighed, then glanced at the undead. Well, if it has come to this. Well then, Alice-chan, if you have to, we could get some fun too. She looked at him like he was crazy. Well, he was crazy but not insane, at least, not yet. He brings a hand forward towards his kimono, and picked up the puppy. Oni-chan, what are you doing? Alice asked, confused. Naruto just smiled, as he picked up the pup, putting him on his head. Naruto channeled some chakra to his head, sticking it to his head, so the pup wouldn't fall. Naruto removed Alice from his back, and held her like a baby. He brought his other hand under her skirt, causing Alice to blush. Now remove your panties so you can pee. He removed her panty easily, allowing it to hang on to her legs. He then turned Alice around so her back was against Naruto. His arms were under her armpits, and she held his arms with her hands. Naruto propelled her legs apart so the girl could easily pee, but the main thing was she was facing the undead, or basically over their heads a few feet where they can't reach. Now Alice-chan, you can pee, he said, a little too cheerfully. Are you sure? Asked Alice. Naruto just grinned lazily. Of course. So Alice relented, making a face as she put pressure down lower. With that, a fountain of pee fell over the undead, on their face and mouth, and it looked like they were tasting it. The scene was creepy even for Naruto, and the pup was having difficulty to remove the sweat drop from his small head. Where to? He muttered to himself. Just then, he heard sound of an engine getting louder. He smirked. Well, looks like the party is here. The group was coming towards Naruto at high speed. Siko, standing on the top, was still in her apron, her hair blowing in wind along with her boobs. One hand in her hair, the other holding her sword. Hirano was in between her legs holding a gun, and the others were inside the car with Shizuka driving. Wow, there are so many! Shizuka exclaimed in shock. You say that like we have the option of running away, Ray said, but Saya was in different mode. Kaor Gergi! She shouted while pointing forward. The grin on her face told that she too was enjoying herself. They started knocking them away as they came near. Shizuka turned the car to left as it slipped to some distance, stopping right at another turn. Well, looks like I rubbed off on them, he chuckled dryly. Suddenly, all the action suddenly froze, even the undead. The group stared at Naruto with hanging jaws and a WTF expression. They couldn't comprehend it. Here was their friend surrounded by hundreds of them, and what he was doing? The girl he saved was peeing on the undead. On the other hand, Alice has been building up urine for quite some time, so it was a long release still continuing. Naruto turned to them, and I smiled lazily. Yo! They all sweat dropped, as face faulting would be dangerous in this situation. Naruto, what the hell? This time it was Siko, this was just too much. Naruto looked confused but then realized. Oh, this? She wanted to pee, so I thought might as well have some fun. They all hung their heads at his antics, really fun. On the other hand, Alice was finished, so Naruto pulled her panties back up and placed her on her back, while bringing the pup again in his kimono. So he asked, "Now are you fine?" he asked softly. She nodded with a smile. This seemed to break the others from their trance. Siko jumped off the car, hitting the first on the head, then leg swiping it. She then jumped and hit another on the head. Naruto! Hurry up! Ray shouted. Hi! Naruto started to walk forward, his balance never wavering. Hirano, buy us some time? Saya said as she too popped out. At the time Hirano was gone in. He come out with shotgun. Jaw! He grinned as he shot the nearest. The blow was heavy as they started to fall back in semicircle. He laughed in glee as he turned in different directions and shot more undeads, but this time they were blown away in air. Gotcha, he said with a gleam in his glasses. Siko was running forward, hitting the first with dual hand swings. She struck them into a wall. Then she swung it again, knocking another down, jumping and turning around in air as she came down with a simple swing. Knocking more out, she then did an upward slash, knocking most of the nearest away. She turned around and started walking back to the car. Naruto-kun! Shizuka called from inside as she was looking around worried. Naruto! Naruto! Were shouts from Rei and Saya, while Hirano fired another shot. Are they Oniai-chan's friends? Asked Alice happily. Yeah, Naruto smiled. They are my dear friends. Siko landed on the roof in a crouch in front of Hirano, said boy suddenly nosebleed after the close meeting with her ass. Siko's boobs bounced as she ran a hand in her hair. She has opened her high ponytail, enjoying the feel of wind through them. This is the last ferry that will be crossing the river. Will you be boarding? She asked with glee. Naruto smirked as he started running on wall. Hell yeah, but I want VIP seats. He jumped on the car, and Siko giggled at his joke. Naruto landed in a crouch. Targets have been acquired, Hirano said happily. Sensei, Saya said. Hi. Shizuka smiled happily as she drove off. There were dead bodies on the road, which caused the car to go a little off balance, and caused Naruto's face to land on Siko's bosom, again. She blushed. Hirano fell back in the car with Alice, falls on his lower region, attaining a painful moan from him. Sorry, Alice said slowly, not sure how much she has hurt him. Naruto sighed. Now can I take a little nap? Asked Naruto. Siko giggled with a blush, as she brought her arms around his head in a comforting hug. Yeah, you can. She knew that it was most taxing for Naruto, since they've all gotten some sleep, but he has not because he also does most of the work. Naruto had his arms behind his head as he lay on the roof of the vehicle, eyes closed taking a nap while Siko and Rei were on guard. And that was our escape. Granted, it means we were able to survive one more day in this new world. We still had yet to cross the river to let them meet their parents, but I am slowly awakening by my blood. Would they be able to accept me? In America, in an airplane. Argument is going on with the president and advisors. Mr. President, please enter the code, Chairman pleaded. But President was in little doubt. Chairman too knew it was an important decision, but delaying it will only worsen the situation. You and I have both bitten. Please listen. We do not even have anywhere to land. This is why we must suppress every country that is pointing ICBMs at the USA while we still can. Aside from officially announcing National State of Emergency Tactical Regulation 660-60, we have no way of fulfilling our duty to both the Constitution and the people. He exclaimed but suddenly lurched forward coughing, blood gushing out of his mouth. President, startled, stood up from his seat, taking a few steps back. Mr. Chairman, Another person in the room called in concern. Chairman looked at his shaking hands. His eyes were too started getting glazed over. He looked at the occupants of the room, his eyes pleading. I'm done for. Some please. His voice trailed off in the end, as he entered in another coughing streak. Woman covered her mouth to hide her gasp of horror. But for the police officer, already seen many of his comrades die like this, understood completely, nodding curtly. Yes, sir, he said, bringing out his gun. Chairman, knowing his end was near, dried his last words to the president. Mr. President, the code, God bless. President lowered his head in silent prayer while the man was shot down. Below the plane was a city, which was in chaos. With our team. They were crossing the river in their Humvee. Naruto, Rei, and Siko were sleeping inside. While Saya was looking around with binoculars, Meek is sitting on the roof silently enjoying the peace they have for the moment. And Hirano was singing song with Alice sitting between his legs, with a really pleasant look on his face, that shouldn't be there. As their song finished. I can even sing in English, Alice said proudly. Wow! Try singing it, Hirano replied, prodding her to continue. With that, girl, start singing in English. As her song finished. Okay. This time I will sing a parody, Hirano said, grinning. Alice nodded eagerly, okay. He then started singing a weird song about guns and who knows what. Behind her, Saya's eyebrows were twitching dangerously. She should have expected this from the gun otaku. Wow, Koda-chan! Alice clapped, in awe at the song, or Hirano, it can't be sure. He smirked. Little kids are so easy to impress, but suddenly turned blue as Saya thumped the roof angrily. Hey, fatty! Do not teach kids inappropriate songs. That song is from Mother Goose, you know, she said, annoyed. Yes, he agreed in a depressed tone as his color as well enthusiasm just went down the drain. Inside. Guys, wake up! Shizuka's childish yet sultry voice called to the sleeping party. Rei stirred in her sleep as she slowly opened her eyes, blinking rapidly to clear her vision. It's about time we crossed the river, Shizuka said. Rei finally came to her senses as she sat straight up from her previous position on Naruto's shoulder. Looking at the said boy, she blushed as she saw Naruto's peaceful sleeping face. But then heard little whiny moaning sounds. Looking down, Siko was sleeping on Naruto's lap using his leg as a pillow. Her boobs were coming out of dress, which was only an apron. They seemed like to be exposing too much as she was showing a lot of skin, albeit unconsciously. Her thumb was between her lips, like a child, a really good one. At this, Rei gave an evil stare. They reached the shore. Car jumped a little but remains put. Saya looked around with binoculars. There's no one here. Living or otherwise, she reported. Hirano was now in serious mode, gun ready for any possible threat. Alice was looking to other side in her childish curiousness. Inside the car. Rei pinched Naruto's cheek hard, really in mood of causing him some pain. However, all she got was him, slowly opening his eyes as he scratched his face, like some fly has stung. Rei got a tick mark at that. What the hell? She can't even startle him in sleep. Huh! Was his response as he blinked a few more times, trying to determine where he was at the moment. I bet you are enjoying it, she said, looking towards Naruto's lap with obvious slight glare. What? He asked, confused, looking down only to see Siko sleeping in his lap. He raised an eyebrow at this but then smiled. Siko may be a strong woman, but she also has her limit. He started running his hand through her hair, as he hummed a little. I guess I am, he replied with a smile. Rei stared at Naruto in surprise. She doesn't expect him to answer like that. She expected him to be surprised, little startled, but not this. She puffed her cheeks. Yes, she is mean like that. At Naruto's pleasant ministrations, Siko too started to wake up. She slowly raised her head, sleepily looking around, then she looked at Naruto, who was smiling at her softly. She blinked in confusion, still sleepy, not completely understanding her situation. Good morning, sleepyhead, he greeted as he still has a hand on her head. Rei crossed her arms under her face, smirking. You are drooling, she said. Siko's eyes widened a little, as Naruto brought his hand from her hair to her face, wiping the drool from the corner of her lips. She blushed deep red at what he has done for her. It isn't normal for someone to do that, as they would feel slightly disgusted, since parents only do these type of things, or really close friends. Their relationship is progressing, albeit quite fast. She slowly sat up, wiping her face repeatedly, to remove any drool left behind. She sat there timidly with her hands between her legs with a prominent blush, stealing glances at him. IW was sleeping in his lap. Her blush seems to deepen at that. Naruto chuckled a little. This side of Siko didn't come out much, but he still liked it. Let's get out, he said. Why? Ray asked, confused. He stared at her for a second, then smirked. I think I have seen enough for one day, he said, looking over her figure. She realized what he was implying. As she lowers her head in embarrassment, a huge blush present on her face. Siko was too in the same predicament. Outside the car, Naruto was standing staring over the city, his hands in his kimono sleeves. Naruto, help me a little, Hirano said. Naruto turned around to see Hirano hoisting Alice towards him so she can be brought down. Let's get Alice-chan down, he said. Naruto smiled softly at the girl, who smiled back brightly and brought her arms forward so Naruto could hold her. And Naruto happily obliged. Era, how is my little princess today? He asked as he took her in his arms, instead of putting her down. Alice is fine. How is Oniai-chan? She asked happily. Naruto smiled. Oniai-chan is fine. As Naruto was talking with Alice, Ray came by. Look, we're going to be changing, so don't you dare look over here, Ray said sternly with a glare. Naruto just waved his hand dismissively. Hi. He then put Alice down as she too ran over to the other girls. Naruto smiled at the departing girl. You like kids? Hirano asked. Naruto spared the chubby boy a glance. You could say that, but not completely. Hirano just nodded, knowing well how annoying they could get at times. Naruto then saw the pup on the ground. He picked it up. He's always so hyper, Naruto said, scratching under the ear. Hey, don't bark too much, Zeke, Hirano said. Naruto looked at Hirano in confusion. Zeke? That's his name. Zeke was the nickname the American Army gave the Raizen during the Pacific War, Hirano said. Raizen? Oh, the Zero fighter plane. You really are small and fast. It's a fitting name, Naruto said, smiling at the pup. Dog barked back happily. Naruto, want to use this? Hirano asked as he shows Naruto the shotgun. Naruto smiled but shook his head. Nah, I am fine with mine. With this I won't feel comfortable. Hirano nodded. He has seen Naruto's expertise with Magnum, and with that, he can also use his sword. He still held his possessions. Sword on his left while Magnum on his left. Naruto was going to other side to check when Oniai-chan, Alice called. He looked to the side, only raised an eyebrow. Hirano too come around asking, What's up? But jerked back in shock, a blush present on his face. Girls have changed the clothes. Siko was wearing female battle boots with heels, long lace purple stockings, purple gloves, her school uniform top, a Chinese-style skirt that shows the string of her thigh and her entire right thigh, and a special belt to hold her sword. Her hair are unkempt. Ray's clothes were same except she has elbow pads and knee pads in place of her stocking, and was holding a gun. Saya was wearing her uniform, but under it, she has black sport shirt, while her school blouse was open. Shizuka has too changed. She was now wearing a white buttoned shirt with no bra, as the outline of her fipples could seen, and a honey-color checkers hot pant. Her hair fell on her back to her hips. Mika too has changed. Instead of her school blouse, she was now wearing a tight purple t-shirt, with V-cut, showing a lot of cleavage. Her skirt remains the same. She also has removed the hairband from her hair, as she knew Naruto liked them open. They were falling on her face, slightly shadowing her eyes, giving her a mischievous look. It seems like a scene from an anime, for a moment, as their hair float in the wind as sparkle seems to appear out of nowhere. Naruto smiled while Hirano was laughing creepily with a black aura surrounding him, thinking something perverted. Ray smirked. What? Got a problem? She asked. Naruto just smiled. No, but do you know how to fire that thing? He asked, looking at the rifle she was holding. She turned to Hirano. Hirano-kun can teach me, if I have to. I'll use it like a spear, she replied, shrugging. Hirano raised his hand excitedly as he ranted. You can. He then proceeds to describe the gun, about how to use it. But Naruto spoke, interrupting Hirano. Don't depend on it too much. You didn't have experience. Keep the bow staff near you. At this, Ray nodded. Hirano too nodded. We're going up in Humvee. You two men, go see if it's safe, Saya ordered. Hirano saluted. Yes, ma'am. While Naruto chuckled, in what way does it seem they are facing an apocalypse? They proceeded to climb the slope. Naruto has one hand on Magnum, but that's all, while Hirano has his gun ready. However, Naruto still held a bored look. They reached the top, Hirano aiming at right while Naruto turned to left. Hand still on the gun but has not made an effort to bring it out. Clear, said Hirano. Naruto moves toward the slope, signaling with his hand that it is okay to come up. Ray looked at Shizuka. Shizuka-sensei. Shizuka smiled, starting the engine. Here we go! She drove up the slope rather easily. All came to the road. Saya looked around through binoculars, once again checking for any of them. It doesn't look like they tried to block the river, Siko said as she turned her head to Saya. As the news broadcast said, it is like this all throughout the world, she finished. But I'm sure there are some police officers left, Ray included, not giving up hope. Saya smiled hesitantly. Right, Japan's police officers are all about their work, she said, too, trying to support said girl. Ray lit up at that comment, smiling happily. Yeah. What do we do now? Shizuka asked from the car. Saya, aren't you from Higashiosaka to Chome? Asked Naruto. Yeah. Then Saya's house is the closest, but… He stared in her eyes, giving her the silent message. Yeah, I know, she said, smiling sadly. I'm not expecting anything, but I still want… Of course you do, Naruto interrupted her with a lazy smile. She looked at him in slight surprise, but seeing his smile as well the reassurance, she too nodded. They were traveling for some time in the empty streets. Pink blossoms flew everywhere, and everything seemed so peaceful. Ray and Naruto were on roof. Inside the car. Ah, there are so many big bikes, Alice said in amazement. Hirano smiled. They sell stuff like imported buggies there. Some of them were trashed by military. Alice has a face of awe. While Saya lowered her head, sweat dropped present. Why do you know all of this? Saya asked herself. Upon roof, Naruto closed his eyes, thinking. What's wrong? Ray asked. We haven't seen any heli or airplanes today, but yesterday there are so many, he replied, still eyes closed. The only thing he could guess was they were done with escorting civilians to safety, or were postponing the process for some reason. We will be fine, don't we? She asked, doubtful. Naruto didn't let her doubt linger. Yeah. Hey Naruto, did you notice? She asked, smiling. Naruto popped open one eye to see that Ray has a hand in her hair, keeping them away from her eyes while smiling. He mumbled. She smiled. We haven't seen any of them today. Naruto nodded, but inwardly they are here. I am sure of that. But not in the area. Something is wrong. Naruto's eyes again closed as he let himself loose to his thoughts. But his peace was interrupted. It's them! Hirano shouted. Naruto's eyes snapped open. Ahead and to the right. Distance, 300. Naruto too turned his head. There were many of them on the road. Too many to be normal. Turn right, Saya said. Shizuka looked at Saya from the corner of her eye. Dr. Tu could see the distress in the genius's eyes. Okay. Shizuka replied hesitantly. On the next turn there were two. They are here too. Mao geez, Shizuka whined. Then turn left. Left! Saya shouted while pointing in the direction. We are seeing more and more of them as he got closer to Higashiosaka to Chome, Naruto said as he and Ray lie on the roof. But why? There must be a reason why, Ray asked, a little frantic. Now on the road there were more of them. Keep the speed up and push them aside, said Saya. Shizuka did just that. Naruto held Ray down as he used chakra to stick to the roof. Undead were sent flying over their heads. However, suddenly his eyes widened a little as his enhanced vision caught something. No! Stop! Naruto shouted. Siko too come to realize as she saw the white wire. She gasped. A wire is fixed to the walls! Turn the car to the side. Shizuka was able to do it just in time. The side of Humvee was pressed against the wires, making them groan at being stretched so much. Don't look, said Hirano as he covered Alice's eyes to keep her from the sight of undead being sliced just by the pressure of the Humvee against the wires. Blood was sprayed on the glass. Why won't it stop? Shizuka exclaimed distraught. Fat Boy knowing the condition. Lock the tires! Just ease up a little on the brake and step on the gas, Hirano said as he looked out of window trying to analyze any further to help Shizuka. Lock? Shizuka asked as she looked around nervously. She found it and did what was told, but now they were speeding towards the wall. Shizuka! Step on brake! Naruto shouted. Shizuka shut her eyes tight, her love's voice ringing in her head, and pressed the brake to full. Naruto's eyes widened as the rear side of car lifted in air, but the worst thing was it wasn't stopping. Naruto glanced back. If he didn't do anything, the car would flip over. Ray looked at Naruto as she saw him gritting his teeth. He let go of Ray as he jumped to the rear of the Humvee, successfully stopping it from lifting anymore, with his weight and force of his jump. Ray saw what Naruto did, but was not able to hold on car any longer. She fell on bonnet on her back hard, then fall on ground again on her back, skidding to a distance. She tried to move, but her body wasn't following her command. All her senses were rocked with pain. She strained open one eye, obviously in pain. She saw that the undead were closing on her, and eyes widened in fear as she stared at them. She tried to move, if only a bit, but felt her body getting numb. She looked at them distressed. Was she going to die like this, not meeting her parents, not being with Naruto? Just then Naruto jumped from the roof of the car, kicking the closest one with a roundhouse kick at neck, easily killing it. He turned in midair, bringing out his sword and blink of an eye, beheading the second. He landed on his feet in a low stand, bringing out his magnum in his left hand, aiming to the front, to the closest one, and shot. Nearest head was blown, plus of another one who was behind it. Naruto? Ray asked, perturbed. Naruto didn't gaze at her, he didn't have time. This is serious, there are too many of them. Ray, looking at his serious face, understood that they were in serious problem. Hirano opened the roof of Humvee and started setting his gun. Naruto! He shouted. Naruto glanced at him and smirked. Yeah, he said, already knowing what they have to do. Hirano too smirked. Naruto walked forward, raising his sword, beheaded the one smoothly. He spun around diagonally, cutting the other, and he again spun around, cleaving another, then killing the two with one shot. Naruto-kun! Naruto glanced over to Siko, who was out of the Humvee. I shall assist you. Take this opportunity to rescue Miyamoto-san. Naruto smiled a little. He knew better than reject her help. He moved back to help Ray. Crouching beside her, he helped her to lie on her back, trying to ease her pain. He smiled slightly. Rest. With that he stood up again towards the undead. Ray's eyes widened. Naruto? She called. He didn't think of fighting them, did he? He didn't reply, just moved forward. Aiming his magnum at the first, bursting his head, then second, and two together. He cleaved another in two. Without breaking his momentum, he swung it to the left, killing the undead who tried to pass him. Siko was killing them with her wooden sword, but she was getting tired. Hirano was shooting them one by one. Naruto's gun was empty as undead came near, which didn't seem to faze him. He reached in his kimonos and brought the bullets, loading them with ease. He again set at shooting, no moment of hesitation. He is a shinobi, a killer. He can't hesitate. Hirano stared at Naruto in awe. His friend still holds his cool. But little did he know Naruto's pupils were now slitted. He was too losing his cool. Aiming at another, he pulled the trigger, but suddenly noticed. My magazine! He exclaimed, his voice too frantic. Inside, Alice was slowly crying, seeing as they couldn't get out. Someone get me out of these from the back. Hirano called desperate. Koda-chan? Alice looked up, tears in corner of her eyes. This. He showed her the empty magazine, in hopes she would be able to find it quickly. She nodded and turned to back searching. Just then Zeke barked, showing the location. Alice picks it up. Hirano was gritting his teeth. Even if Naruto was taking down more than them, there are just too many for him alone to handle. Koda-chan! He looked down at the shout of little auburn head. Here, said Alice, shaking a little but still smiling. Hirano stared at little girl. If they lose here, he won't be able to see her smile like that. He won't be able to hear her voice. He won't be able to forgive himself, ever. He got a murderous look, like hell he would let them near her. Time to kill, I'll kill them all! He shouted and started shooting with new determination. What the? The engine is stalled and I can't start it! Exclaimed Shizuka as she desperately tried to start the engine. Saya huffed as she moved to the back, her decision made. What are you doing, Takagi-san? Asked Shizuka, stopping her wasteful effort for the moment. I am going to pick up a gun and use it, Saya replied, pushing her glasses up. That's dangerous, Shizuka exclaimed, startled that she even think of that. They didn't have any experience in using a weapon. Saya turned to Shizuka and smiled cynically. I know, sensei. She opened the gate. Takagi-san, Shizuka shouted, worried for her student. The bullets are by your feet. Do you know how to use it? Asked Hirano, glancing back at Saya. I am genius, Saya retorted. So what, they are in tight situation. She was indulgent as ever. Saya! Naruto shouted. Her head snapped in front only to see that undead was just upon her. But before it could bite, it was knocked off by Siko. Her whole body spasmed as the yellowish liquid fall on her. She felt disgusted, soiled. Swallowing her fear, she glared back at the undeads. I'm not a coward! I'm not a coward! She loaded her shotgun and aimed. She shot, killing them. I am not gonna die! None of us are gonna die here! My house is just around the corner! She shouted, her determination renewing. After few hours. They were killing them for few hours now. Sun was setting down. Siko was tired. Hirano was still trying his best. Saya was backing up as she holds the gun like a bat, fear eminent in her eyes. Naruto was too getting tired. Until now, he has killed the most, if the pile of them beside him was any proof. Rei was still in pain. Naruto closed his eyes for a moment. Just then he heard a bark as Zeke jumped out of the car and stand by Naruto, growling at them. Naruto looked at the pup, then at Sky and sighed. This will be difficult for them as well as for him to deal with, but right now his friends' lives were important. Saya was about to run up and beat the shit out of them but stopped as Naruto held her gun in place. She looked at him in confusion. Naruto? He smiled slightly. Go over Rei, he said as he stared forward, again serious. She nodded hesitantly, and ran up to Rei to help her sit up. Siko! Hirano! He called for his friends, both looked his way. But gasped. His one eye was slitted red while other slitted blue. Buy me some time, he said quietly. They didn't question him, just nodded. Naruto moved back towards Rei and Saya. Both looked at him questionably. Naruto? Asked Rei and Saya, uncertain. He then suddenly picked them up. Naruto! What are you doing? Asked Rei, scared. Naruto silently moved towards the wire. But Saya immediately understood. No! You can't do that! She shouted, but he didn't listen. We can't leave all of you behind! She shouted, tears in her eyes. Rei also come to understand. Naruto! Please stop! She called, hoping he would stop. But he just put a foot on the wire, drawing it down. No! Naruto! Saya shouted. He threw both of them to other side. Then let the wire back. Saya slowly sat up, crying. Why didn't he understand? She didn't want to leave him behind. Never. Rei too was crying. Naruto quickly went to the driver's seat of Humvee and opened it. Shizuka, who has her head down on steering wheel, looked up. Naruto-kun? She asked, unsure. Naruto's face was passive. He quickly picked her up bridal style, shutting the door with his leg, again moving towards the wires. Shizuka, seeing Saya and Rei on the other side, easily understood what he was going to do. Panic raised in her being. Naruto-kun! No! I don't want to leave! No! No! And no, she shouted as she tried to struggle, but all was in vain in front of Naruto's strength. Knowing she can't free herself, she started crying. Don't leave me alone! She wailed in a desperate attempt to change his mind. He reached the wires, drawing it down. He leaned towards her face. I can't let you die. I love you after all, he whispered in her ear. Her eyes widened, as all thoughts left her mind. He threw her to other side at Saya, who caught Shizuka. Her eyes were still wide at what he just said, but tears fell from her eyes. Alice, who was being tightly hugged by Mika, sitting at the roof of the Humvee. Mika stared at Naruto fearfully as he come near them. She knew that he will send them to other side. His soft heart wouldn't allowing him to do anything else. She hugged Alice tightly, who started to cry. She won't make it more difficult for him by protesting, he was already hurting, she didn't want to add in it. Naruto, come near them. Come, Alice-chan has to go with Oni-chan's. Naruto smiled as he picked up Mika, who didn't protest, with Alice in her arms. What about you? Naruto asked fearfully. I smiled. I will be there soon. Liar! She shouted, but Naruto continued to move towards wire. Daddy, to say that. No! No! I want to be with Oni-chan, she cried. Naruto smiled. You will be fine with Oni-chan's. He looked at Mika, who has tears falling down her cheek. He kissed her forehead lightly, causing the girl to gasp. She looked at him with widened eyes. That was the highest affection he has ever shown to her. She watched as he smiled down at her. Take care of Alice for me, he softly said as he then threw them at Shizuka and Saya, who caught her. They were staring at Naruto with wide eyes. Naruto jumped over Humvee and put a hand on Hirano's shoulder. Hirano looked at Naruto in confusion. Naruto? He asked. Naruto smiled. Good work, my friend. He then caught Hirano's back of jacket and threw him over the wires, with his gun. Hirano stared at Naruto as he fell on other side. Naruto knew he will be hurt, but he will live. Naruto smiled at Hirano as the boy stared at Naruto in shock. Naruto turned to see the final member of the group. But suddenly his breath hitched as he saw her surrounded by them. She had moved forward while fitting and was now been surrounded. Naruto's second eye too turned red. He growled, jumping down, he ran towards her. He can't run full speed as there are too many of them, nor can he use his weapons as they will stall him. So he just pushed them apart with his hands, a desperate way, a last effort. Siko was being surrounded. She hit the one behind her, then quickly spun around to deliver first stroke to other. She tripped another, stomping on it. As she was one knee, she plunged the sword in one chest. But it was removed from her hands by the undead, with her sword still in its gut. She watched in fear as its mouth come close to her. She has only one thought: I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. I can't keep my promise. Just as it was about to bite, a hand came in front of her. It was Tand. Her eyes were widened as she registered that she hasn't been bitten. Naruto was behind her. He brought his gun to the face of undead which was biting his arm and shoot. The undead was thrown back with many others. Siko looked over her shoulder with fearful eyes as feeling of dread filled her. She saw the passive face of Naruto as he stared ahead. Her eyes shook in her sockets as she came to register at what has happened. Naruto has been bitten because of her. She screamed in terror, pain and dread. Naruto! Naruto! All heads jerked at the scream. Tears started falling from their eyes as they thought the obvious. Hirano was too, crying silently. His friend has sacrificed himself for their sake. Rei and Saya were in shock. Alice was crying while mumbling Oni-chan again and again as she tightly hugged Miku, who too has her eyes shut to block the tears. But the worst was Shizuka. Her eyes were shaking, she too was shaking. Naruto, she mumbled as she started to get up. Hirano saw what their sensei was doing. Just then, Shizuka ran towards the wires, but Hirano stopped her by holding her by waist. Naruto! Naruto! Please, don't leave me alone! She struggled but in vain. Hirano was holding tight. He will not let his friend's life be in vain. In the back, Saya and Rei were looking at Shizuka in shock. They knew that their sensei has feeling for Naruto, but this, giving up life. Could they do that? They questioned themselves. But then they both thought she really loved him. Naruto! Siko's scream was her last barrier. She started crying, not even trying to defend herself. What was left to defend, the person she promised, was going to die because of her weakness. Naruto shoot those that were near him, making a circle around them which will buy him some time. He put his gun back. Siko! Get a hold of yourself! He said harshly as he unsheathed his sword easily with his left hand as his right hand was bitten. Siko looked at him with tear-stricken eyes, but then she saw he has brought out his sword. She continued to watch as he brought his right hand in front of him, while raising his sword. And Naruto? What are you doing? She asked, stuttering as a little hope rose in her heart. Naruto just grunted. I am getting rid of the bite, he said as he brought his sword down. Blood sprayed all over Siko, from the stump, which was once Naruto's hand. Naruto has not turned from her because of obvious fear of any of them sneaking. He gritted his teeth in pain, not allowing himself the luxury of screaming. Now the severed hand fell at her feet. It will blacken, not because of disease but lack of chakra. Naruto sheathed his sword, then took hold of Siko's wooden blade, and yanked it out of the body. Siko was still in shock at what Naruto did, trying to cope with the situation. Naruto got in a wide stance, sword held in his left hand in reverse grip. Blood dripping from the new wound non-stop. Uzumaki Kenjutsu Kaze no Erasure, Uzumaki style wind storm. Naruto spun around Siko, who was still on floor, and swung his blade sideways in full circle. Result was instantaneous. Wind picked around them like a tornado in which they were the center, blowing back all of them who were near them. Siko, who was still shaken up, looked at Naruto in awe. One technique and most of them were clear. Meanwhile, as Shizuka was struggling, a force in black dress with orange and white strip-like design. They wore a helmet and has a cylinder-like thing on their back connected to some kind of pressure gun. Everyone! Take positions! A muffled female voice shouted. At this, everyone turned around to look at the new arrivals. Shizuka stopped struggling as Hirano dragged her back. The new force took places immediately, pointing their gun towards them and shoot. Many of them were blown back. Who seemed to be captain reached the group. We will help you. We can pick your car later, the captain said. But Shizuka shouted, her voice hoarse. Help us! Please save my Naruto! Please! I beg you! She cried pitifully as she looked at the masked women. Masked women looked surprised but asked, Where is he? She asked. Shizuka turned to stare at the undead. The women frowned but then bowed a little. I am sorry, but he me dash. She was cut off in mid-sentence as one of her men shouted. What is that? All looked over to see a wind tornado picking up among the undead. Woman thought something was wrong, that thing can't be natural. But Naruto's group got a little hope. As they knew, only Naruto could do this type of damage. Just a figure shot out from among the undead to land on the side wall of bridge, and then jumped again to the railing platform. Just as the technique ended, Naruto snaked an arm around Siko's waist, pulling her close. He crouched as he channeled chakra to his feet. He leapt towards the side wall. He landed easily but took another jump, landing on railing platform. Now Siko was slowly coming out of her stupor. Naruto-kun, she softly said as her body was tightly pressed against him, while Naruto was breathing heavily. That last move was taxing, too taxing even for him, and plus blood loss. He was slowly getting dizzy. As they saw the figure leaning on the railing breathing heavily. But they couldn't tell that from their distance. Naruto! Hirano exclaimed. All girls' face lit up. Shizuka smiled, still crying a little. The leader was surprised that the boy survived among this many of them. Hirano picked up his gun to look at them closely. He gazes through the scope on the gun, so he could tell the situation. He grunted a little. Busujima-senpai looks fine, but Naruto is breathing heavily. He stopped. All others' faces have looks of horror. But Hirano again spoke after a moment of observing. His right hand is gone. Looks like he cut it himself with his sword, he exclaimed. Now everyone has looks of surprise and shock. But why? Asked Saya frustrated. Shizuka, who has calmed down after see that Naruto is still fine. He must have been bitten at hand. So he cut the appendage before the infection could spread. Shizuka exclaimed, easily catching on. What? Rei stammered, confused. Shizuka smiled slightly. Every disease needs some time to spread throughout body. This pandemic is no exception. I have seen that whenever one is bitten, it takes different amount of time for them to be dead based on their wounds. So the enzymes will spread from the infected appendage. But Naruto cut off the appendage before it could infect him. Shizuka finished almost sagely. All were staring at her wide-eyed. Did their Ditzy-sensei just to do something? But they were glad too that their friends were fine. The women behind the mask looked over at boy in amazement. That boy didn't panic, even after being surrounded by so many, and successfully saved his friend and himself. Amazing. But Shizuka frowned in worry. But he would be losing blood fast. He has to stop bleeding or he will lose consciousness. All other looked at her, then at the location of the other two. Siko. He spoke, trying to control his breathing. Try to stop the bleeding. We have to move on. We can't stay here. We will take a detour. He rasped out. All she could do was nod. She was still dreading to see Naruto in this condition, because of her weakness. Naruto was moving away from the bridge. He jumped down the railing with difficulty but continued to move, while Siko was thinking of some way to stop the bleeding. But then her gaze fell at her bow tie. She quickly removed it. It was about a foot long. This can work. She brought it around his hand and ties it tightly. Bleeding didn't stop completely, but it stopped enough that only few drops were escaping. As well, Naruto's body make blood cells far faster than any human. Meanwhile, Shizuka has thanked them for helping. They found out she was Saya's mother. The family hugged and cried. Naruto, Rei said as she saw them move away from the bridge. Wani-chan? Alice pulled on Mika's shirt. She put a hand on her head, smiling. They will be fine, she assured to Alice. Hirano grinned at them, giving a thumbs up. Don't worry. Busujima-senpai and Naruto are both strong, he replied with a smile. Saya at this ran towards the wires. We'll be waiting at my house, she shouted as loud as she could. She would never forgive him if he died. Never. Chapter end.
Now watch daily exclusive uncensored lemon stories and mature content, along with NSFW images, featuring harem girls characters from the fics. Access all this and more on my Patreon. Click the link in the description to explore.